Yo, what's up, Pat? How you doing? How you doing today? I'm doing I'm doing all right. Ready for the spectacle tonight. Ready for the Hunter Biden firing squad that Trump is gonna attempt to assign to him tonight. I don't know if it'll work, but that is exactly what's gonna happen. So we had this 60 Minutes interview with Donald Trump storming out of it. So he stormed out of the interview, said it was very biased, and apparently his team, I don't know if this is normal, but they had their own recording of the 60 Minutes interview, and he released it. So I'm going to watch this. He says, look at the bias, hatred, and rudeness on behalf of 60 Minutes and CBS. So I'm going to sort of test how, are the questions bad faith? Are they terrible questions? Or is Trump being a big baby about it?
The tough questions?
You're going to be fair.
I'm going to be fair.
Just be fair.
But last time, I remember you saying to me, bring it on, bring it on.
No, I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for fairness, that's all.
You're going to get fair.
So you start an interview. You say, "Please be easy on me, please, Mr. Macho Man Donald Trump. Please be fair."
But you're okay with some tough questions.
No, I'm not.
You're not okay with tough
I want
questions?
to be fair. You don't ask Biden tough questions.
Me?
Huh?
I don't even.
It's terrible.
I
It's
only
terrible.
interview you.
You know that. Okay, are you ready?
Everybody ready?
We're up.
Okay. Can I start?
Just one second.
Close the door, have your upper lip just a little drop. Should be fine.
Am I okay?
You're good.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm ready. So we have the pandemic. On your watch, we've had racial strife, we've had looting. Why do you want this job? Why do you want to be president again?
Because we've done a great job and it's not finished yet.
We've got racial protesting. We've got a deadly pandemic. Why do you want to be president again? Because we did a great job. Hey, what's up, Min Capin forever? I don't know. Minx Capinks forever. What's up?
And when I finish, this country will be in a position like it hasn't been maybe ever. The economy is already roaring back.
When I finish, our country will not be in a place, or our country will be in a place that it never was at before. Good answer.
And other people aren't going to bring it back. Certainly the person that we're dealing with is not going to bring it back. They're going to raise taxes. They're going to take away your Second Amendment. They're going to do things that nobody would even
Yeah.
believe. It's radical. There's never been anything like it. No,
Let me
we
ask
are
you-
we are positioned.
She literally
like
said,
never-
she says, Donald Trump, why do you want to be president? There's a deadly pandemic. You're very unpopular. We have racial protesting. Why do you want to be president? And he says, because we're doing a very good job. The radical left is going to take your guns and tax you higher. Like he's unable to even answer these basic questions. So when he's asked a question that requires an actual answer, he feels attacked like a 2-year-old.
Before, we're going to have a fantastic year next year.
Let me ask you what you think the biggest domestic priority is for you right now.
He's going to say Antifa.
Well, ultimately, let me, and I'll tell you, it was happening. We created the greatest economy in the history of our country, and the other side
You
was
know
coming
that.
in.
You know that's not true.
It is totally true.
No.
Best unemployment numbers, best employment numbers, 160 million people working, highest stock market price. You wouldn't say that to Biden, what you just said to me. If he had it, you would never say that to Biden. We had the best stock market price ever, and we're getting close to that price
You would
again.
never say this to
We had the best.
Biden?
Everything
Okay.
was the best. Our companies were doing better than they've ever done before. You cannot even think about talking about that.
Well, I'm not going to fact check you.
Well, you don't have to
I'm
fact
not
check
gonna
me.
do that.
I mean, excuse me,
But-
the stock market was at its highest. The unemployment numbers for African Americans, for Asian Americans, for Hispanic Americans, for everybody were the best. Every number, virtually every number was the best. We had the best economy ever. And what was happening is things were coming
Well,
together.
I asked you what your single biggest
Well, no, what
priority was.
I'm going to say that.
Oh.
And the other side was starting to call, let's get together. There was going to be unity. And then we got hit with the plague,
The other side?
and we had to do it again. And we closed it up, and I saved millions of lives. Millions of lives we saved. And now the economy's growing again at record numbers, 11.4 million
So is it the plague or not a big deal? He goes back and forth based on the conversation.
people employed in the last short
But
period
what's
of
the
time.
priority? I mean, those are all the good things. What do you
The
want
priority
to
now
solve?
is to get back to normal, get back to where we were, to have the economy rage and be great with jobs.
Rage and be
everybody
great.
be happy, and that's where we're going. And that's
Everyone
where
was
we're
so
headed.
happy
And
before the
who is our
pandemic.
biggest foreign adversary?
I would say China. They're an adversary. They're a competitor. They're a foe in many ways, but they're an adversary. I think what happened with
Yeah, that's why Trump handed them millions of dollars with his terrible tariffs.
was disgraceful. Should never have happened. They should never have allowed this plague to get out of China and go throughout the world. 188
Oh,
countries.
he's mad about the
Should
pandemic.
never have happened.
So there, so.
Leslie, 1 second, please.
What's wrong?
And the flag is wobbling, I think, because it's under a vent perhaps behind you, Tom.
His hair's coming down a little bit.
This is pretty cool to see the behind the scenes here. They said that his hair's coming down a little bit, the flag's moving because there's a vent around him. That's actually pretty interesting to see the behind the scenes before they chop it up. But the Trump campaign said they're going to release this so that 60 Minutes can't fabricate it. I don't know what they can fabricate. I mean, Donald Trump ads literally have different sentences from Joe Biden, and they put the sentences together to make him say what they want him to say. It'll be like, Joe Biden, will you take our guns? And it has a video of him going bingo from a totally different conversation.
Gun meeting, right?
It doesn't look nice blowing it.
No, it's distracting.
Oh, really?
I can see it.
Yes, from the arrow. I think we're better, guys.
I'm going with or without you
It's not
guys.
moving.
No,
Let's
it's
go.
not. Okay, at this stage, 4 years ago, you were behind in the polls, you are now, and you pulled it out.
The polls are
This
fake.
time, you have kind of a double migraine. You have unemployment claims going up, you have COVID cases going up.
We got to
I
open
mean,
up.
It's like the gods have suddenly decided to conspire against
I
you.
don't think so at all. No, I think
Well,
we've
what
done a great
about
job
these-
with COVID.
Yeah,
And
but
we've
We've done a
hired,
great
numbers
job
are
with
going up.
COVID.
excuse me, 11.4 million people. Why? Because the last report was just a little bit off. And this is
No.
without,
Sir, excuse me, cases are up in about 40 states.
okay, you know why cases are up also?
We just hit a high of 1,200 people dead. No matter what he says, it's still 4% of the world's population, 20% of deaths. There's still 1,200 people dying per day in the U.S. Like, this stuff is still happening.
Because we do more testing. If we didn't do testing, cases would be way
Yeah,
down.
but why are you saying they're not
If we
up?
didn't test,
You know, you're saying things that.
These talking
people
points are
don't
so
What
bad.
I'm
see.
saying to you, Leslie, is the following. We do more testing than any country in the world by far. Second is India with 1.5 billion people. We do more testing. If we did half the testing, we'd have half the cases. If we did no testing, like many countries, we would have very few cases. Because
the reason countries around the world stopped testing at a high rate, which their testing rate was much higher than ours, is because they successfully suppressed the pandemic. The US had to keep on testing and testing and testing because our cases never went down. The other countries like Canada, like every European country, all these numbers went down, so they stopped testing. Like, these arguments are so bad. We have so many excess deaths in the US. These numbers are inarguable. People always say, like, oh, people die in a car crash and, you know, the medical people say it's COVID, so the hospitals get paid more. That's not true.
we do so much testing, the fake news media loves to say cases are up. The fact is, we've done a very, very good job.
Cases are up?
We have done, that's right, because we're doing so much testing.
And deaths.
Cases-
Are there
when you
deaths
say
from testing
cases
too?
are up,
Yes, cases are up
Okay.
because we are doing tremendous testing, and we're finding where there's a problem. Testing is a good thing, but it's also very misleading.
When you're out there saying we've turned the corner, this thing is disappearing,
That's
and
right, we have
people
turned
can
the corner.
see,
We have turned the
people
corner.
can see cases
We have
going
turned the
up
corner.
all over
Oh, shit.
in the
I just grabbed
Midwest,
something.
in the Mountain West. Record numbers of
We have
cases in
turned the
some
corner.
states.
We understand the disease. We understand the elderly, and we're taking care of them at a level like nobody's ever taken care of the elderly, especially the elderly with diabetes problems, heart problems. We are taking care of them like nobody's ever taken care of them. We also understand youth, 99.9%. As an example, Barron had it, and it was gone in no time. It was just,
Oh, yeah.
he had it, it was gone. Hardly
I
knew
learned
he
so
even
much.
had it. So we are taking care of our people, but we've done a great job with the ventilators, with the equipment, with stocking governors that were not stocked. We've made a lot of governors look very good that shouldn't look good, and that's okay with me.
The governors had to
Let
cover
me ask
up
you
cover up
something
for
about
him.
Suburban women.
Yeah.
You said the other day to suburban women, will you please, like, will you please?
Oh, I didn't say that. You know, that's so misleading the way, I say jokingly, suburban women, you should love me because I'm giving you security and
He literally says, "Suburban women, why don't you like me? Why don't you like me? I'm gonna come give you all a big kiss, all you boys and girls out there. I want suburban people to like me." And his only strategy for getting suburban voters is literally playing on Nixon and Reagan white identity, saying that these dirty poor people from the projects are gonna overrun your suburbs. These poor people from the projects. They're going to build projects next to your suburbs. That's how he's trying to get the suburb vote. Like it's literally like the most racist roots of our history. It's crazy.
got rid of the worst regulation. See, the way you said that
Yeah.
is why people think of you and everyone else as fake news. I
You said that so mean. You said my words back to me. That was so unfair.
said kiddingly, suburban women, you should
I
love
was
me.
kidding.
I got rid of a regulation
You
that
said,
would bring
quote,
low-income housing into suburbia that would destroy suburbia. And I said that in a
You know what he actually means? I ended legislation that would that would make black people move into your community. That's exactly what he's saying right now.
joking way. The way you have it, it's like, oh, like I'm begging. I'm kidding. Play it, and I'm kidding.
I'm
That
kidding.
is such a misleading question, Leslie.
But you're behind the suburban women in the polls.
I doubt it. I doubt it. I really doubt it.
One of the
I'm
things,
saving suburbia. He's going to destroy suburbia. He's got a regulation, which I terminated, that he would put back, and even worse, that will bring low-income housing projects in.
Joe Biden will let the blacks move into the suburbs. And Joe Biden had a decent response to this at the debate when he said the suburbs are integrated. Like that's a good response to this white nationalism.
Into suburbia. And women understand that. And they've really learned about it over the last 2-3 weeks. I terminated the worst regulation you could possibly have. It's gone. And suburban women appreciate it. They want security, they want safety. Look, I've been endorsed by almost every police department, almost every law enforcement group in the country. He's been endorsed by almost nobody. Suburban women want security.
but the polls show that you're behind with them. And one of the reasons, let me
You're
say
not looking
this,
at recent polls.
one of the reasons is that they don't feel you're being upfront about the pandemic. And when you
So-
say we're rounding the corner.
Oh my God. Why does he think this will make him look good?
We are
Tell
rounding
Rob
the corner.
Woodward that
We
you
are rounding the corner.
deliberately like to downplay this.
We are rounding the
Are
corner.
you
We're rounding the
deliberately
corner. We're
downplaying it?
doing well.
Why are you
We're
downplaying
doing
this?
well.
I'm not.
We
We're doing
understand
well.
the disease. I saved millions of people. 2.2 million people were supposed to die. You go back and you look at your models, 2.2 million people. We saved tremendous numbers of people. Plus, I closed it very early from China, heavily infected, and even from Europe, heavily infected. We've done a good job.
He really
We've
is
done
insane.
maybe a great job. What we haven't done a good job on is convincing people like you, because you're really quite impossible to convince, but that's okay. And the economy now is coming back, and it's coming back very strongly. And people see that, Leslie.
There are more unemployment claims.
So Trump is saying he's saying basically our country's doing good with COVID. It's tampering down a little bit, but when you look at these numbers, 230,000 dead. You look down here. This is yesterday. California, Texas, all these countries, or not countries, states. Yeah, countries. States are getting so many cases, but not only cases. First, cases go up, and they have been going up for around 2-3 weeks. Now deaths are catching up because people don't die from this right away. They spend 2-3 weeks in the hospital. So now you see all this red. 1,200 people died in one day. Big burst in deaths. It's not going away anytime soon. You can see it's rebounding. This is going to be far worse than the first wave. And Trump is like, oh, it's almost over, guys. Don't worry.
Claims. And the economy has kind of
Leslie, we just
stalled a
picked
little
up 11.4 million jobs. It's the largest number
bit.
in
What
the
about these
history of our country in a
unemployment
short period of
claims going
time.
up? I mean, how
Leslie,
can you ignore
you didn't
that?
hear me. We just picked up 11.4 million jobs. It's in a short period of time. It's the largest number in the history of our country.
But are you denying that the unemployment claims have gone up? Is that
What I'm
is
saying is,
happened?
we got hit by something, not my fault, not
No,
your fault.
no.
We got hit from something that came out of China. I got stuck with it. And let me tell you, before it happened, we were doing so good, and now we're going to be doing, and we are doing good. But
Well-
look at as an example, last week, a few days ago, Gallup did a poll. 56% of the people said that they're better off now during a pandemic than they were during Obama and Biden. 56%. It was a record number, right?
Yes, but I
Imagine if after 9/11, George Bush or anyone said, I don't know, it's not my fault. I mean, we all know how much of a disaster our actions were after 9/11, but like, it's not my fault. It happened. It's not a big deal. I mean, 3,000 people died. A building fell down. Maybe 2 buildings fell down. It's not a big deal. Maybe a plane landed in the woods in PA somewhere. It's not a big deal. 9/11 happened. It's not my fault. Sorry, guys. Like, it's not a big deal. And now this is so much worse.
You're, what, ignoring the fact that there are unemployment claims?
No, I don't ignore it.
Okay, well, what are you saying?
He
about
What I'm
ignores
saying
everything.
is that we got hit with somebody.
Yeah,
It's
it's the
not our
fault of
fault.
women,
We got hit.
women
And
And
reporters.
we've done a good job, not a good job, we've done a great job.
It's their tone, right?
Remember that number, a very important number. 56% say they're happier now than they were 4 years ago under Biden and Obama, right? I'll put his name first. Biden and Obama. And they didn't have a pandemic, although Biden did have a big problem with H1N1, which he says in reverse, with the H1N1 swine flu. And it was a
No, what did Trump say after 9/11? I never saw that.
disaster. And his own chief of staff said it was a total disaster. They didn't know what they were doing.
Can we go back for 1 second to the pandemic? Because you called Dr. Fauci and other health officials idiots. And I'm
Dr.
wondering-
Fauci,
I'm
where did I
wondering
call
if you
where did I
think-
call him an
I'm
idiot?
wondering if you
Where did I
think
call him an idiot?
you called them idiots. I wonder if you
Well, he's been
think-
wrong a lot. I like him, but he's
I-
been wrong.
I wonder if you think that masks
My mic was just muted. That's embarrassing. But he just said, Fauci. She said you called Fauci an idiot, and he said, "Oh, where did I call him an idiot at?" And she said, "You did call him an idiot." And he said, "Well, he was really wrong before." So I guess that story about Trump, saying that about Fauci being an idiot was totally true. Yeah, I saw that, King Hippo. That was funny.
don't work. Is
Well,
that
Dr.
what
Fauci
you're
originally
saying?
said, it's a
No,
very
but
complex
what do you
subject.
say? Do you say
Let me
masks
just tell you,
don't
you
work?
mentioned Dr. Fauci said, don't wear masks. Then he said, wear them.
What do you
I
think?
say that I feel masks possibly work. But certainly you want to stay away a certain distance, socially distance, etc. But I would say a mask works, and I have nothing against masks, and I tell people to wear masks.
Yeah, it doesn't
I
make him
don't
look
Tell me
good.
then about these rallies you've
He
been
can't
having.
answer
A
simple
lot of people
questions.
are wearing masks.
None of these
And a
questions
lot
were
of
bad.
People aren't. I'm watching all these people jammed in together, and I'm seeing most of them without masks. And I'm wondering the message that you're sending with these pictures.
He's
coming
playing
in.
on
Take a look.
sexism.
Yesterday,
The female
we were
reporter,
in
her tone's bad,
Arizona. Record-setting rallies, numbers of people like nobody's seen before.
Well,
Many,
you
many
used to have
masks. I
bigger
watched.
rallies.
What?
You used to have bigger rallies.
No, these are much bigger than I ever
I
had.
don't want to bicker over that.
You know,
Tell me
you're
about
so
the mask
negative,
wearing.
you're so negative. These are the biggest rallies we've ever had.
You're so
You
negative.
just come in here with that negative attitude. These are the biggest rallies we've ever had. We are having numbers like we've never
You're
had.
just being
Tell me
negative.
about
There
You're
the
being a
is more-
party
excuse
pooper.
me. No, but you
Super
made a
spreader
statement.
what? What's a super spreader?
There's more enthusiasm right now for us than we ever had before, ever. And you will see that in a short period of time.
But what about the masks?
A lot of people are wearing masks. I mean, I looked yesterday, a lot of people were,
Oh
and
my
it's
God.
outdoor.
He can't
They
answer a
want it
direct question.
outdoor, and we're doing it
But
outdoor.
I can't believe after what happened in the Rose Garden here, after the announcement, with all the people getting sick, that you are not being more strongly encouraging about wearing masks.
Look at his
I
face.
tell people to wear
But you
masks.
don't.
Leslie, we hand out thousands of masks.
you
at
look
every
out
rally.
He doesn't answer a question.
And you
Oh
don't
my
say,
God.
"Put on
Well,
your
have you
mask."
He's
been
such a
looking yesterday?
baby.
Take a look yesterday in Arizona. Everybody behind me
But
had a
I'm
mask.
looking at other places. I'm looking at Wisconsin, which is a hot spot right
Right,
now.
right. A lot of people
A
had
lot
masks.
of people
And it was
have masks.
outside.
And you don't get up there and say, look, you know,
Okay.
come on.
Go
I
ahead.
don't want you to
What's your
get
next
sick.
question, Leslie? We're outside. The rallies are bigger than they've ever been.
He literally sounds like
There's
a
more enthusiasm
one of my drunk
than
uncles on
we've ever
Facebook.
had. There has never been anything like what you're witnessing now, and you'll see that soon.
Okay, but I'm asking about masks, not about.
I don't get it. The
size of
science
the
keeps
mouth.
on changing.
I'm
Scientists should
asking
make up
why
their
you
minds.
Commented on the size of the
I know,
room.
but
You
I'm
said they're not
asking-
as big as they used to be, and I'm telling you, they're much bigger.
Okay, but I'm asking you now about the masks. Why aren't you getting up there and saying, I had it, I don't want you to get it, so please
Leslie,
put your mask on?
we hand out masks to everybody that comes to the rally. We tell them to wear the masks.
He won't answer it.
You don't, and they love you.
Oh, I
and
don't
they-
know, Leslie. I
If
tell
they
them wear
heard you
them.
say it,
I have no problem. No
they
problem.
love you, they would
Next
pay
question, go
attention
ahead, go
to
ahead.
anything you said. Okay,
I hope you're right. Go ahead.
okay.
Oh my
Um,
God,
this
yeah,
is
he's getting flustered.
important. Okay, I'll ask you.
He storms
another
out
health
eventually.
question,
Huh?
Okay? You promised that there was gonna be a new health package, healthcare plan.
Yeah,
You said that it was gonna be great, you said it's ready, it's gonna be
It will
ready,
be.
it's all ready. It'll be here in 2 weeks, it's gonna be like nothing you've ever seen before, and of course, we haven't seen it. So why didn't you develop the health?
I can't
It
wait for
is
this
developed.
answer.
It is fully developed. It's going to
What?
be announced very
When?
soon when we
You
see
say
what
that
happens with
over and
Obamacare,
over.
which is not good. And when we see what happens with Obamacare.
But if the Supreme Court,
And it will be much less expensive than Obamacare, which is a disaster. And it will take care
I
of
mean,
people with pre-existing
No plan is better
conditions.
than
but your plan
or-
is to repeal and replace.
no plan technically
And
does
if the
cost less
Supreme
than
Court
having a plan. So
Finishes Obamacare, there will be all these people stranded.
No,
because
there
there's
won't.
no
he's not going to
replacement.
Thank you.
protect pre-existing
And we will have
conditions.
A great healthcare plan
It's all
But you keep
symbolic.
saying that.
less expensive, and a much better plan.
Why haven't you?
It's literally impossible to cover pre-existing conditions and old people in a plan unless if you provide something like Obamacare or a universal system where you have more people buying into it. There's a reason for this. You cannot have a less expensive plan and still cover pre-existing conditions. There are concessions you have to make in the policy-making process. And people listen to this bullshit and they believe it. I have people telling me Trump's going to cover pre-existing conditions with his symbolic executive orders that he just put on for this election to look good.
You have seen it. I've been putting out pieces all over the place, and we actually have plans. And we have 180 million people right now have a plan. And you haven't been watching.
What?
You haven't been
What does he
watching.
mean?
But what about the pre-existing, people with pre-existing conditions? If the Supreme
Are
Court.
protected. Will be totally protected.
How?
That's not how it
They'll be
works.
protected,
How?
Leslie. I mean, the people with pre-existing conditions
We're just
are
gonna do
going
it.
to be protected as they are now.
How?
In any plan we do,
But the-
they
We're
will
just
be
gonna do
protected. Leslie,
We have no plan.
people with pre-existing conditions will be always protected, always.
But if the Supreme Court ends this, with Obamacare,
Well, we'll have to see what happens. It's got a ways to go. I mean, we'll see what happens. I think it'll end. I hope that they end it. It'll be so good if they end it.
So he does want it to
Because
be
we will
ended.
come up with a plan.
100%.
Which will
Will.
be yeah, we will.
but you said it
Oh
would
my
already.
God.
We have
dude.
large sections of
This
it
is
already
painful.
done. And we've
It's already
already come
done.
up with plans. Take a look
It's
at
been done for 5
your
years.
Various secretaries, various plans that we've already come up with.
Various
And
big
also,
plans. We have many
You know,
plans.
a large part of this country has private health insurance.
Yes.
180 million people. And under that, Biden, he doesn't have any clue, but under that, 180 million people will lose their health care. And they'll go to socialized medicine.
What?
And that's not going to be
That's
acceptable.
not how any of this works.
180
What did he just
million
say?
People, Leslie, will go to socialized
180
medicine.
million people will lose
It
them.
won't
Does he
be-
mean the public
it
option?
will not be accepted.
And if the Affordable Care Act is determined to be unconstitutional.
Then we're going to have a new,
whatever,
then we're going to have new, and it's going to be very good. And it's
So
gonna-
he has no
keep saying that
plans.
And don't show it to
That's
us.
good.
And so people with pre-existing
We've come up
conditions-
with many plans, Leslie, and we have, they're already in
I literally just said
existence.
that as a joke. We have many
I'll
plans.
tell you what, after this interview, I will show you short-term, longer-term, I'll show you different plans. We've come up with many plans. And we cut the individual mandate out. You know, the individual mandate is gone. That was the worst part of Obamacare.
That
That's
cut
gone.
15 million
Okay,
people off their
all of
healthcare
that.
insurance when he got rid of that.
All of that. But
He's drinking water. Look
If-
at those hands.
if there's
Those
no
hands are
plan,
gross. What the hell?
A replacement plan.
Right.
And the Supreme Court says that Obamacare goes away.
The
People with
best, never seen
pre-existing
before.
conditions will be stranded.
Never seen ever.
And that's just a fact.
It's wrong. It's
No.
wrong. A new plan will happen.
But will.
And we won't do anything, will and is. We won't do anything and no plan unless we have pre-existing conditions covered. And the individual mandate, which you don't want to mention, was terminated. It was terminated. Individual mandate was terminated. That is the biggest thing that's happened. And that actually makes Obamacare not Obamacare. Because under that, you would pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance.
Yeah.
We got it terminated.
Yeah, who cares about that?
Terminated.
But it still
Through
is
the
funny when you see a
legislature.
man who's supposed to be a
Signed,
macho man
done.
get a sip of water.
That means Obamacare is no longer Obamacare.
And
We
he's
got
like-
rid of the most important element of Obamacare, and it was the worst element of Obamacare
Like, he
that
looks like
nobody
that.
wanted, nobody liked.
It's terrible.
So Obamacare
It looks so
essentially was terminated as we know it. Now we have the carcass of Obamacare.
Well, part of the
We've
carcass
managed
is
it well.
pre-existing.
Leslie, we've managed it well. You know, I had a choice to make. When we got rid of the individual mandate, nobody believed we could do that, and I did it. Right? I had a choice to make. Do I manage the remainder of whatever's left of this whole thing called Obamacare, which is no good? Do I manage it well or manage it badly? If I manage it well, politically maybe that's not
Well, then
good.
do you wanna
I
leave it?
decided
What?
to manage it well.
Do you want to leave it? I mean,
No, I don't want to leave it. I
pre-existing's
want to see what
covered.
happens. Here's what happens.
Well, but why
We may
not?
be
He hasn't
stuck
given
with
one
it if
answer
we lose in the
for the
Supreme
past 10
Court,
minutes.
in which case we're wasting a lot of words. If we win, we will come up with and we will do that, come up with a much better health care for much less money, always protecting people with pre-existing conditions.
Are you going to say?
Trump's
you
going to
didn't
print
say
money
this.
for all the pre-existing
I saw
condition
you say
people.
this.
Go ahead. No, you're really trying to. I wish you would interview Joe Biden like you interview me.
Hey,
It
Joe
would be
Biden,
so
what's your
good.
health care
You know what?
plan? Well, I have the ACA. I'm going to build on Obamacare, maybe add a public option. Hey, Trump, what's your health care plan? You know, we have many plans. You'll see a plan if many things happen. We have many great people. We have various plans. Maybe someday we could talk about the plan over the rainbow. We will cover everybody. Hey, Trump, how will you cover everybody while taking away their health care plans? You know, it'll happen. Pre-existing conditions will be covered. Like, literally, they do ask Biden the same questions. Trump just cannot answer shit because he's an
This,
idiot.
I thought you
I don't
liked
mind it. I don't mind it. But when I watch him walk out of a store, he's in the midst of a scandal. His family is corrupt. Okay, he's corrupt.
Oh,
He's a
yeah,
corrupt
Bidens
politician.
are corrupt.
And he's
Trumps are
walking with
good.
Ice cream. And the question the media asks him, what kind of ice cream? What flavor ice cream do you have? And he's in the midst of a scandal.
He's not.
And he's taking, of course he is,
No,
Leslie.
come on.
Of course he is.
You
See
know, they
that?
had the Senate
So
committee
you're like
Republicans.
big tech. You're protecting
You're
him.
like big tech.
And
You
everyone
are
is,
big tech.
except
You are
for-
protecting
Yeah, but
him
you're exempt.
by not covering
You're
the fake
taking
story.
something that was investigated
Leslie,
by
let
a
me ask
Republican
you.
committee.
You think
in
it's
the
okay for the mayor of Moscow's wife to give him millions
Oh my God.
and millions
Let's have a
of dollars,
comparison
$3.5
between
million
Biden and
dollars,
Trump.
to give his family $3.5. Do you think it's okay for Hunter Biden to say?
I
to
mean,
say
screw
that
both
we're
of them,
giving-
but
we're giving the big guy 10% of this massive amount of money they're taking in? Do you think it's okay for all of these horrible things that you've seen where they're getting hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars, where China gives them $1.5 billion to manage the family, $1.5 billion, and then he's supposed to negotiate? Let me tell you, it's the second biggest scandal.
So-
The biggest scandal was when they spied on my campaign. They spied on my campaign.
There's no
Leslie.
real evidence of that.
Of course there is. It's
No.
all over the place. Leslie,
Sir.
they spied on my campaign and they got caught.
Can I say
it's
something?
all over the place. I
You know,
saw it.
this is
I saw it
60
somewhere.
minutes. And we can't put on things we can't
No,
verify.
you won't put it on because it's bad for Biden.
We can't
Look,
put
let me tell
on
you.
things we can't verify.
Leslie, they spied
And-
on my
Well, we
campaign.
can't
It's been
verify.
totally verified.
No.
It's been, just go down and get the papers.
Just get
They
the
spied on
papers.
my campaign,
I thought
they
the
got
media
caught.
lies.
No.
And then they went much further than that and they got caught. And you will see that, Leslie. And you know that, but you just don't want to put it on the air.
I don't
As
think
a
he
matter
said
of fact, I
he hasn't
don't
answered
know
one
that.
question this
And
entire
you're
time.
out
So why
there.
don't you get back to your interview and let's go.
We'll go. All right. So you said in the briefing room, nobody likes me. It can only be my personality.
I said that jokingly. That is sarcastic.
Everything
Nobody
is a
likes
joke.
Me. It must be my personality. I say it all the time.
That is a
Nobody likes
joke.
me.
That
It
is a
must be
dumb
my
question.
personality.
That's the dumbest
I
shit
say
I've
it
ever
all the
heard
time,
as a
listen.
question.
Do you
I'll be
think
honest.
that your tweets and your name calling are turning people off?
No, I
Hunter
think I
Biden,
would be here if I didn't
2024.
have social media because
Hunter
the
Biden
media
versus
is,
Donald Trump Jr.
The name
corrupt.
call. Let's
In my
talk
opinion,
about-
the media is corrupt. But,
You know,
but
you
the
told-
media is fake. And frankly, if I didn't have social media, I'd have no way of getting out my voice.
You know what you told me a long time ago when I asked why you keep saying fake
Yeah.
media?
Yeah.
You said to me, I say that because I need to discredit you so that when you say negative things about me, no one will believe
I
you.
don't have to discredit you.
But that's what you
You've
told me.
discredited yourself.
You told me that.
Leslie, you've discredited yourself. When you say that you're not going to cover Biden, you're going to ask him what flavor ice cream he has, okay?
That's not
Instead
me.
of why did Hunter get $3.5 million from Moscow? Instead of why is an energy company paying your son $183,000 a month or whatever they're paying him,
This is their Hail
and he has
Mary.
no experience in energy.
Hunter Biden.
You know, you discredit yourself.
You know,
I
all
don't
the
have to
Americans
discredit
that need a
So
better
this
economy
story
and to
about
not
the-
die from a pandemic
this laptop.
really care about that, right?
Some repair shop found it. The source is Steve Bannon and Rudy Giuliani.
I don't know anything about
And
that.
you're
I just know it's a
making this-
laptop,
and
and they
you're-
haven't.
And you're making this one of the
Steve
hottest,
Bannon and
most
Rudy
important
Giuliani.
issues in your rallies.
I don't know about the two gentlemen you
This is
mentioned.
the most important issue in the country
It's a
right
very
now.
important issue to
For
find
you
out
to
whether or
talk
not a
about.
man's corrupt who's running for president, who's accepted money from China and from Ukraine and from Russia.
All these
Yeah, I think
things
that's
have
an
been
important issue.
investigated and
It's
discredited.
incredible the way you can try and say this and sit there and look me in the eye and say it.
A Republican
He accepted money,
committee-
his family, from Russia, from Ukraine, from China, and from other places.
and a
His
Republican-
brother, who didn't have experience, became a big builder in Iraq without experience. Take a look at what's going on, Leslie, and then you say how that shouldn't be discussed.
I'm saying,
It's the biggest scandal out there, Leslie.
and you think it's the biggest issue to campaign on.
I think it's one of the biggest scandals I've ever seen, and you don't cover it.
Biggest issues of all
You
time.
want to talk about
Well, because it
This is
can't
what
be
I'm worried
verified.
you
about.
want to talk
I'm
about
telling you.
insignificant things.
I'm telling you.
Of
We want
course
to
it can
talk
be
about
verified.
insignificant
Excuse
things.
me, they found the laptop.
230,000
Leslie,
people dead. Who cares?
What can't be verified?
The laptop,
Why do you say that?
because.
Even the
it's
family
verified.
hasn't, the family on the laptop.
The
he's
family
gone
on the
into
laptop?
hiding For 5 days, he's gone
Someone's in
into
hiding?
He's
What?
preparing for your debate.
Oh, it's taken him 5 days to prepare? I doubt it. I doubt it. Okay,
All
all
right,
right.
all right. So let's get back to the name calling, okay? And whether you think it's turning people off.
No, I
because
think, look. it
There's
is
a tiny
what it is.
man inside a
Where are
laptop
we sitting now?
who
Where
is
are we
Hunter
sitting?
Biden.
In the Roosevelt Room
Of what?
of the White House.
That's right. How did I get here? How did I get here?
What?
We're in the White
But what are you
House.
saying?
Oh my God,
Oh,
he is
but by
actually
name
brain
calling,
dead.
you think that
No,
that's
not by
a
name
hearing?
calling, by, doing the right thing.
At least I know why my
And
family relates
we
to
have a
him.
great record. I mean, we got hit by
All
a
the people from my
pandemic. It wasn't
hometown.
my fault. But it was China's fault. But
He's an
but
NPC.
listen,
The reason-
He is
we're
a
in the
dialogue
White
tree.
House. The press is very biased, very, very biased. And I'm not talking
You're
about
trying to
I'm talking
discredit
about,
us.
no,
Yes.
no, I'm not. You're discrediting yourself, Leslie.
No, you are.
Leslie, you're discrediting yourself. When you don't go after Biden, with
Why
the
are you
corruption in the
asking me
Biden
about
family,
going after Biden? You've asked me 5,
when
6,
you
7
don't, when
times.
you
Yeah,
don't
shout out to
go
Hunter
after,
Biden, I guess.
what happened in the Russia witch hunt, which turned out to be a total phony with no collusion whatsoever. When you don't do that, you discredit yourself. The press, is highly discredited right now. You do know.
Is this supposed to be
So
owning
you
the media?
discredit yourself.
I think he looks pretty bad here. I don't know why this would help him or why he would think that.
I don't even know where to go there. Half the country loves you, but the other half doesn't.
There's
And
10 minutes.
I'm wondering why you don't.
They were
think-
starting to, Leslie, when the economy was just prior to the, to the plague.
He's low-key right about that, though.
They were starting to really we were all starting to like
I think
each
he would have
other.
won
It
re-election
was coming together.
pretty easily.
There was going
without
to be
a
lot of
pandemic.
I've heard you say
unification.
that before.
Especially
And
against
I
Biden.
don't think we were coming
And I'm just
together.
telling you.
I think we've had
People
disunity.
were calling me,
Unfortunately.
people were calling me about coming together. And then we got hit by the plague, and now we're rebuilding it again, and it's going well.
And do you think that you do anything to unify the country?
I do. I think I do unify the country. I think I will unify the country. It's called success. When our country becomes,
What
again,
about the rabid partisanship in the country? Do you take any responsibility for the country being divided against itself? Do you feel that?
I'd like not
It's
to.
the radical left.
But, you know, perhaps everybody has to take a little responsibility.
Oh wow, that's a better answer than I thought.
But when people put out phony witch hunts, you know, when they spy on your campaign, you have to fight back. And if you don't fight back, you're not sitting here very long. You go back home. You go back home to mommy.
You go back home to mommy.
I'm listening
You
to
go
you,
back-
I don't know how long we've been here. And it's just attack, 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 attack.
I don't think so. I mean, look, it's not attack.
It is.
It's defense. It's defense
No, I-
against attacks.
No, you've been attacked,
It's defense against attacks.
you're very aggressive.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't view it that way. I'm defending myself, and I'm defending the institution of the presidency.
Oh
Very
yeah,
importantly.
sure.
Can you?
Hi, Mike. Are you having a good time, Mike, watching? You know Mike, right? Our great vice president.
I do.
You think she'd ask questions like this of,
There he goes.
Wow, you
I don't
pulled it
think so.
off.
One hand,
you think
one
she'd
hand,
ask
baby.
questions like this of Joe? I don't think so.
Can you, characterize your
Yo, I was muted,
supporters?
wasn't I?
Can
Damn.
you-
Yeah, I think I can. People that love our country. And people that don't want to see the stores get looted and burned down, and people that don't want to see riots, and they don't want to see anarchists. Yeah, I think I can.
Sorry,
These are people
anarchists.
that love our country,
You make,
and they don't like to see,
but you don't seem.
they don't
to-
like to see policemen get shot and not be able to defend themselves. They don't like to see rioting in the middle of Fifth Avenue or in the middle of other streets in Portland
Other
or
streets?
other places.
Fifth Avenue is not important. Portland.
And they like it when their president gets the endorsement of virtually every police group and frankly, almost everybody having to do with law and order. Positive law and order. But you know what they are? They're people that love our country more than anything else, and they like to see our country thrive.
But do you think that when you hold rallies and encourage people to say, lock her up? the way you
I don't encourage them, they say it.
And you would
Hillary
get
Clinton.
it.
I don't
You
encourage
just
them to
don't
say it.
do
Hillary
that.
Clinton deleted 33,000 emails after she got a subpoena from the United States Congress.
Why does, why?
No,
is-
that's
Why is he
illegal.
bringing this up?
Now, why somebody doesn't do something
But
about
why
it?
is this
What?
still an issue?
He's a Fox
I think
News
it's-
timeline.
You're gonna vote
To
on
me,
that.
This is my Facebook
She
feed.
ran last time.
Excuse me, when they say lock up, it's not me. They say it. It starts, it
You
ends up
encourage
being,
it.
I don't encourage
No,
it.
Ilhan
No,
Omar,
if
he
I
like.
mention her name about something, they go
Why is he
crazy.
still
Well,
talking
what
about
the
Hillary in
government
2020?
who
That's kind of sad
had
right
this
there.
Plot that people were gonna, people, I think.
I don't know anything
your
about the
supporter-
plot, but I can tell you this.
I'm telling you about the
It was
plot.
our Justice Department that is the one that's helping her.
Yeah.
My Justice Department, if you call it that.
Yeah.
It was our Justice Department that's helping her. And, you know, people aren't so, they're not liking her so much because she's got everybody locked down. Now, we just won a Supreme Court where it's unconstitutional. The only one she doesn't have locked down is her husband, who went sailing and did
This
things
is a
that he
bad
wasn't supposed
interview
to be doing.
You
overall.
are
Like, it's
very
terrible.
powerful.
He's gonna walk out soon.
And the people who love you with passion. And if you go after somebody the way you've been going after her,
I
they
haven't
take it
gone
to
after her.
heart, and then there
No,
are
no.
plots and threats, and the
I
same
haven't
with
gone
She's
after
a
her.
bad interviewer too. I don't like
I've
her
helped her.
in
It
general.
was
You
our
did go
Justice
after her.
Department
You
that's
criticized
helping
her.
her. Oh, I do criticize her, yeah.
Well,
I
that's
think the
going
way
after
she
her.
locked down Michigan is a disgrace.
But
The
when
way
you-
she closed churches in Michigan is a disgrace.
What?
I think it's disgraceful, what she's
Yeah,
done. I
okay.
do.
You wanna lock
And
her
by the
up.
way, that's other, of course not, that's other That's other governors also.
Does he know he's a
They happen to
fascist?
be
I don't
Democrats,
think he
And they've
knows.
closed up their states.
I think he's just kind of
And
doing
they're
it.
causing a lot of problems with these lockdowns. Suicide, drugs, alcohol.
Suicide.
A lot of bad things are happening.
This is my health
And they should
textbook in
open
high
up
school.
their states.
Oh my.
Carefully, but they should
Suicide,
open up.
drugs,
Well, when you
alcohol.
say open up, you don't say carefully, you say open up. You don't have
Oh, I say
an
carefully.
aggressive program to say open up with masks, open up with social distancing.
The governors
Just say
run their
open up.
states.
No,
We
but
help
the
them a lot,
message
but the
comes from
governors
you.
run their states.
You are.
And the governors have to do what they have to do.
But you-
But when they lock down Michigan, she's doing a tremendous
Trump is
disservice.
an American.
Well, what
Same
about
thing
you
with
saying-
Pennsylvania.
Trump's gonna start his
Same
own
thing with North
his
Carolina.
news network.
What about
These
you
are
saying-
Democrat governors. And
Yo,
they're doing a great
Imagine
disservice.
podcaster
about
Trump,
you saying-
YouTuber Trump.
Let's open up, but let's wear masks. Let's
Well, I
open up.
say-
You don't.
I say, I'm not against masks at all.
But you're not
I
for
say,
them.
sure I am, wear them. But I also say socially distance. I say all the things. But you know what? Well,
I say all the
look,
things.
with you, nothing I said would be any good listening.
That's not
okay?
true, Mr.
That's
President.
okay. But in
That's
the
not
meantime,
true.
we're having a record comeback because if
Does
you
he
look,
think he's doing a
we're
good
the
job?
fastest growing nation in the world after this pandemic, by far. And we sunk
Or is he
less
acting?
than any other nation, relatively speaking. And we're coming back very strong, very, very strong.
So you don't want to lock up Governor Whitmer, but you want to
When did I
lock
say
up
lock her up? I
the
never said.
Bidens, you want to lock
Wait
up
a minute, when did I say
Obama.
lock her up? When did I say lock up the governor? I didn't say lock up the governor.
All right, but you.
Why
want-
would I lock her up?
You
No, but
want-
why did you say you don't want to lock up
Yeah,
the governor?
liberate
Of course
Michigan.
I don't want to lock her up.
As
Why would
people
I
are
lock
at-
her
are
up?
at
You
the
were
state
in front
capitol
of
with
a rally
rifles.
of people saying it, encouraging it.
I
He's not
never
encouraging
said
it.
Leslie. I never said lock
I never
her
said
up.
the exact words lock her up. I just
Leslie,
meant it.
It's such a vicious thing you just said.
That's so
I never
vicious.
said lock
How
up
dare
the
you be
governor
mean
of
to me?
Michigan. I would
I
never
am a
say
little
that.
boy.
Why
I'm
would I
a
say
little
that?
boy
Well,
Trump.
what about the Bidens?
She's
I'm
doing
weak.
lockdowns.
Do you want to lock up the Bidens?
No, I don't want to lock them up,
What
but they
about
certainly
Obama?
should be looked at.
Obama, you want to lock up Obama?
No, I don't want to lock them
What
up,
is she
but he
doing right
spied
now?
on my campaign.
Do you want to lock
Obama
up?
and Biden spied on my campaign. Do you know what that is? Do you know what they did?
She's making him seem
Do you
so
know how
unhinged right now.
horrible it is what they did?
But
you
it's
don't,
never
you
been
don't get it.
verified.
It's been totally
God, he looks
verified.
terrible here. Holy
It's-
shit.
You'll find out, but it's been totally verified.
You've all but said that Attorney General Barr should go after President Obama. Now, if you lose, humor me here, okay? You lose. How would you feel if then President Biden went after you?
Oh, he probably will, because I think he's a very dishonest guy. And he probably will look for something, probably will, we'll see. But you know what? Attorney General Barr has been very nice, that's all I can tell you. He's been very nice. He's been very respectful.
Criticized him.
He's been very, no, I didn't criticize him, it's just a different personality. They're very lucky, they're very lucky, because the evidence is overwhelming. And Attorney General Barr is a great gentleman.
What
He's a great
evidence?
gentleman. They are very lucky. Now, I can't tell you what's gonna happen, I don't know.
I know you.
Because
Lock
I
'em all up.
purposely like to stay out of it. You know what? I don't like to get involved. I can if I want, but I don't like to get involved. But I think they've been very, very lucky. Attorney General Barr is a gentleman.
You know, I.
Yo, screw
I
Barr.
Didn't want.
Hate that
to
guy.
have this kind of
Of course you did.
No, I didn't.
Of course you
No, I
did.
didn't.
Well, then you brought up a lot of subjects that
Well, I said
were
I'm gonna
inappropriate.
ask
You asked me questions about my
They were
job.
inappropriately
But-
brought up.
How dare
Right
you?
from the beginning. No, your first question was, this is going to be tough questions. Well,
It
when you
is.
set up the interview, your first statement
You're
was,
president. Don't you
Excuse me,
think you
no,
should
no,
be
no.
accountable to the
listen,
American people?
your first statement to me, this is going to be tough questions. Well, I don't mind that.
I hope they impeach
When
Joe.
you set up the interview, you didn't say that. You said, oh,
Yeah, they'll
let's
probably
have a
try
lovely
stuff like that.
interview. And here's what I do say.
So what?
You don't ask Joe Biden. I saw your interview with Joe, the interview with
I
Joe
never
Biden.
did a Joe
It was a
Biden
joke. The interview, 60 Minutes. I see Joe Biden
The
giving
interview.
softball after softball. I've seen all of his interviews. He's never been asked a question that's hard.
Okay, but forget him for a minute.
No, but you
You're
start with
president.
me.
You're president. and-
Excuse me, Leslie, you started with me. Your first statement was, are you ready for tough questions?
He's like a 5-year-old.
That's no way to talk. No way to talk.
Leslie, one second,
Oh my God.
This is the first warning, I think we have
5 minutes until we have the vice president step in, is that about right?
Well, I think we have enough, really, we have enough of
Yeah, I
it.
think we're ready for the vice president now.
I think we have enough of an interview here. Okay, that's enough. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go meet for 2 seconds, okay? Thanks. I'll see you later. Thanks.
Okay. 0 out of 10 interview. That was terrible. I don't know. I don't know. Does he think that makes him look good? Was that planned from the start? I don't know. But 19 minutes until the debate starts, I wanted to watch this crystal ball Bernie Sanders interview. Apparently he said some spicy stuff in here about the future of progressive politics, including how he is going to hold Joe Biden and every corporate Dem's feet to the fire during these next couple years.
All right, Crystal, what's on your radar?
Well, I had a chance to sit down yesterday for a virtual interview with one of the political leaders that I admire most, Senator Bernard Sanders. So we had in the home stretch of what to me, and I suspect many of you, is an incredibly depressing campaign season. I wanted to hear from the senator about how he thinks about all of these things, about COVID, about the economic fallout, about millions losing their health care, and how those unfolding catastrophes match up with a cautious Joe Biden who is a lifelong incrementalist. We're at this strange moment of tension. On the one hand, the issues that Senator Sanders staked his career on have never been more salient, more essential, and frankly, more popular. 63% support Medicare for all, 72% support a $2 trillion stimulus, 73% support free college. And at the same time, after his defeat, the movement to actually gain any of those things feels very much in the wilderness. Joe Biden is likely to become president and quite possibly could romp in an electoral landslide.
Those poll numbers are kind of off,
to live
but
in the heartbreak, frankly, of what could have been, where we might have hoped for a campaign that was about more than wearing a mask and not being an asshole, and a potential administration that would understand just how much needs to change for America to have a shot. Senator Sanders himself provided a big dose of that alternative reality, laying out for me what he described as his own 100-day agenda to rival the first 100 days agenda of a Biden administration.
I'm going to lay out a 100-day agenda, which speaks to the need to begin the process of moving toward Medicare for all. My legislation, 4-year legislation, first year lower the eligibility age from 65 to 55 and cover all the kids. I'm going to introduce that bill. Immediately, we're going to raise that minimum wage to $15 an hour, equal pay for equal work. Immediately, a massive infrastructure program to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure.
I like that.
And create millions of good-paying jobs. Immediately, making it easier for workers to join unions, et cetera,
that is really
et cetera.
important for all of
So
us.
we have got to lay out an agenda that speaks to the struggles and the desperation of working-class Americans. And finally, tell the corporate elite they have had their day. And we are going to stand up and fight for policies that workers desperately need.
And so let me make sure I understand what you're saying here. You're saying, look, the Biden administration, they'll have their 100-day plan, but there's going to be a Bernie Sanders working class 100-day plan as well that you're going to attempt to rally people behind.
You got it?
Got it.
It's exactly what we're going to do.
Now, what will come of that effort? Well, that's the real question, isn't it? You all know that I've been skeptical that the Biden administration will be much moved by the protestations of Bernie Sanders or a few members of the squad, or even complaints from
Remember, it's not about them just being moved. I don't think Joe Biden's campaign is going to go to the left. The fact is, we have very popular politicians. We have AOC, we have Bernie Sanders, we have all these squad members, we have all the progressives who are very popular around the country. We use all of these things to say, Biden, you better do this. If Biden doesn't do this, this is what we use to beat Democrats, to beat corporate Democrats. That is the
broader
plan.
progressive movement writ large.
Everything Joe Biden does
Truth be
bad
told,
is a good
they
thing for
like
us.
The specter of the left's complaints because it gives them a chance to show how moderate they are. All of our hissy fits not only fall on deaf ears, but fall on delighted ears because they can hold up the Green New Deal and a fracking ban and Medicare for all and our complaints about their administration's inadequacy and say, hey, Lincoln Project Never Trumpers, look how moderate we are.
We all hate Jeff
But
Weaver.
Senator
I
Sanders
hate
left
that
the
guy
door
so
open
much.
to the one thing that I think could be an actual threat to the Democratic establishment, a primary fight against either Joe or Kamala in 2024. Would you be open to supporting a primary challenge either against him or against Senator Harris in 2024?
Those are great questions, Crystal. I'm prepared to support primary challenges all across this country to those members of Congress, Democrats, who are not prepared to move toward a progressive agenda.
No
They're
answer
damn
about the
right I am.
presidency.
Now, let me say that I have some skepticism that Senator Sanders would actually back a primary challenger there. You note that he said he'd back a challenge to members of Congress, not specifically the president, leaving that all a little unclear. And I'm even more skeptical that many members of Congress would join him in such a thing. Remember, yes, right now, we're supposed to believe that once Trump is gone, all will be well and peace will reign in the kingdom. And then, we are told, we'll be able to criticize Democrats without being labeled treasonous consorts of Russia. But you know, immediately after Biden's elected, the Democratic establishment is going to start ginning up some new existential threat to the nation that requires everyone to keep their mouths shut again and never, ever breathe a word against our sacred and unsullied Democratic Party. So, right now, the abstract idea of backing a primary sometime in the future seems a lot more likely because Carlson Cotton 24 isn't breathing down our necks, but just you wait. However, if there is going to be any actual power leverage on behalf of working people, this would be the way. And it doesn't even require a credible threat of victory in that primary to be effective. These are the same people who melted down over Jill Stein and Susan Sarandon. They freak at even the slightest challenge to their power and supremacy, and they would hate a messy primary fight laying bare the divisions in the party as Biden-Harris or Harris-whoever heads into their reelect. They demand an anointing and a crowning, not this whole having to pretend they care what voters think thing. And that brings me to the final piece of the Sanders interview that I wanted to highlight, although the whole conversation was really interesting and definitely worth watching through. And that is his view on where we are as a nation and the biggest threat that is actually facing us.
The main point that I would make is that some of my friends in the Democratic establishment are not aware or I think cannot comprehend what some of us have in mind in terms of what will happen after Biden is elected, hopefully after he's elected. And that is, we are not going back to business as usual. There's too much pain out there. There's too much inequality out there. There's too much injustice out there.
Who's running in 2024 then?
And here is what I believe from the bottom of my
AOC,
heart.
Ro Khanna,
If the Democrats, with the Democratic president, Democratic House, and Democratic Senate,
someone new?
cannot begin to address the real crises facing this country, then the future of this nation will be very, very dismal indeed. The people are giving us an opportunity now, and if we blow it by not being bold and aggressive, the next Trump who comes along will be even worse than this one.
True.
President Trump
True.
wants to make
Oh,
school
no.
choice available for all
school
families
choice.
in America. Joe Biden opposes school choice.
School
Let's
choice?
give all families the educational opportunities that their children.
Yeah, let's get all the poor kids from the poor areas go to the rich areas to get school, so those rich areas get overpopulated schools, and then the funding isn't going to work at all anyway. That's a very good solution. Okay.
And these are the words that I hope he and everyone else remembers, because Senator Sanders is exactly right. The truth is, while mainstream Democrats are scaring everyone into submission with existential threats,
I like Bowman.
the real nation-ending event will come if we allow our current problems to bubble and fester and ultimately rage out of control. We could yet long for the good old days of Donald Trump's America. It was really interesting sitting down with Senator Sanders and getting some specifics about how he's thinking about his role in the Trump era. This is the first time I've heard him talk about, I'm going to have my own 100 days agenda, and here's how this is all going to go. Progressives missed an opportunity, and Senator Sanders missed an opportunity to actually extract some concessions from Joe Biden this time around, because the calculation was made, Donald Trump's too grave of a threat. We can't even threaten to withhold our votes.
No, $2 trillion for climate is a concession. Free public colleges and universities is a concession. This isn't, it's not true. I mean, as much as I hate Joe Biden, these literally are concessions that if they went more far to the left, they would have lost people in the middle. People on the left aren't a big enough electoral tool to demand more concessions than that at this point in history when our candidate got squashed in the primary. Although we all know there was dirty politicking behind that. It's just not how politics has ever functioned in any society in people history and human history.
We've all got to jump in, and so that opportunity to pressure Biden is gone. It's lost. It's not coming back. The only next opportunity comes in 2024. And do I think they're actually going to follow through with potentially backing a primary challenge? No, I'm not particularly hopeful about that. But that would be the next reasonable expectation of a pressure point. And as I said, I don't even think you'd have to have a challenge that was really likely to succeed because they're so fragile about any sort of like debate or any sort of messiness or any sort of exterior perception of a divide in the Democratic Party, any sort of threat to their power they freak out about. So to me, if you're actually looking realistically about what is the next pressure point, that's the place.
I think that's right. You know, it's interesting watching these interviews is that Bernie's probably at his best when he's like an analyst and not a politician. Like whenever he's talking about what's actually happening versus, you know, like actually in the realm of politics and power and pushing stuff.
It's true.
He's probably at his best whenever he's like diagnosing what's wrong with the country, where things, you know, are corrupt and not. And yet when I think the problem has always been his follow-through. We covered it here extensively.
Sure.
So that's the question, is what does it really manifest itself? I mean, does publishing a 100 days agenda, like, okay, cool, man. Like, you got 2 votes in the Senate. Maybe, if Elizabeth Warren goes along with you.
She's not going to.
You've got like 8, what's the squad plus now going to be in the next Congress? Or like 6, 7? So what does that mean?
7.
Probably 7. So squad plus Bernie in the Senate. Okay, we're talking about 8 members of Congress.
Throw
here.
Ro Khanna
Out of
in there for good measure.
Maybe, sometimes, right? Whenever he's not flacking for Biden. So that's like out of 535 members. And I'm just trying to be realistic. So what does that mean? What are you going to push? So what is the benefit that those people have is that they have a huge media platform.
Right.
What are they going to use it towards what end? That's the real ever-present question to me. What do AOC, Ilhan, and them decide to publicly break with Biden on and cause problems for him? Electorally, legislatively, they can't really do that. They don't have votes. But they can cause a big headache in terms of the media. President, you know, this is how it works, is that she can make a comment at a joint press conference or whatever. Reporter, somebody like me would be like, hi, you know, Mr. President, AOC says this. What's your response to that? That's usually the best way in which she and many others could shape the debate.
We saw
that's
this.
That's what I'm really curious
Just
about.
to chime in on that, and now at this point, Ro Khanna is now praising Nancy Pelosi.
That's right.
Back on the team.
Well,
but
he got smacked in the face.
When he first came out and was the lonely member of Congress who was like, no, I think we should take the deal. Like, people are hurting. Take the deal that is on the table from Steve Mnuchin. Just that one person plus Andrew Yang was enough for Wolf Blitzer to be able to really effectively challenge Nancy Pelosi and put her in a tough place. Now, look, I mean, obviously, we are not really closer to a deal than we were before, but at least it was an ability to put some pressure on her and a public divide that she clearly did not want and did not like. So that's the question. And you know how this is going to go. I see this in my Twitter timeline all day long. Whenever I say anything critical of Joe Biden, I get, just wait, right? Just hold your fire till November 3rd. Yeah. And then progressives can unload and say what they really think about Joe Biden and like push him in all these ways. But you know, it's not going to work like that. He's going to get elected. There's going to be a period of like celebration where he hasn't done anything, so there's nothing really to criticize. And then the moment he gets in there, Republicans start acting like assholes and jerks like they always do. Then it's going to be, no, you can't criticize him because you're handing the Republicans a talking point, because you're enabling whoever is cropping on. Tom Cotton's been traveling in New Hampshire. You're helping Tom Cotton. You're helping whoever is next.
We have no historical precedent that would actually happen. We had no left under Obama, and Obama gave us Occupy Wall Street. It gave us all these leftist movements. It gave us the largest anti-capitalist movement in American history. Like, all the things she's saying right now are not founded by history, and she has no other path to go. She doesn't have any concrete plans on how to move towards the future based on precedent, based on historical accuracy, based on where we can go from here. I just don't agree with any of her assertions right there. It seems really Twitter focused. It seems really lack of on the ground focused. I don't know. I want to hear her actual reasoning behind this. I want to hear her like talking to someone who disagrees with her, because he's just going to nod his head. She literally just said Republicans are going to be dumbasses and assholes or whatever, and he's like, he nods his head. Although we know he's a far-right Republican hack. Like, we already know that.
In line. And so this cycle just repeats over and over again. Are there going to be any number of progressive leftist members of Congress who break with that and actually challenge the party? That is the part that very much remains to be seen.
Absolutely.
Next on Rising, still no sign of stimulus.
Tell you what, having Trump in office has really hurt the progressive power, though, because we didn't have any neoliberalism to attack, because everyone thought all the problems were a result of Trump. If something went wrong, it was just Donald Trump.
God bless America. Thank you.
I'm happy there's no crowd though for this quote unquote debate. Melania, Mrs. Hates Christmas. Oh boy, I can't wait to see Trump get muted and just be yelling. I hope you could still hear him like in the background of Biden's mic. That'd be really funny. So did Trump test negative for COVID? Because people were asking him if he tested negative, and he won't say that he did. He just kept on saying he feels good and he has no symptoms. So I think you had to get tested for this. Tiffany Trump, yo, I hate half the Trump kids look like supervillains, and the other half looks like unwanted children. You know what I mean? Like you have Donald Trump Jr., who is like a really bad villain from a movie, and then you have Eric Trump, and he's just he looks like a clown. He looks kind of dumb. Then you have Ivanka Trump, and then you have Tiffany Trump. Like one is supervillain, one is unwanted and not loved. Then you have Barron, who is like 8 feet tall. Barron Trump kind of scares me. He's too tall. He's gonna be an NBA player. He could be the president's personal bodyguard. This chat keeps on disconnecting. I don't know why. I'm gonna have to pull it up on the YouTube.
When it comes to trimming your balls.
When it comes to trimming your balls, interesting. There you go.
The moderator for this evening's debate is Kristen Welker of NBC News.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Trump said she's terrible.
Thank you
I don't
so
know who
much
she
for
is,
being
though.
Here. It is such an honor for me to moderate this debate tonight, the final debate. I want to welcome the First Family and the First Lady. We're so glad and thankful that you are feeling better. I want to welcome the Biden family, Dr. Jill Biden. Thank you all
Hunter there?
for being here tonight. We are so excited. We're looking forward to a really robust discussion. And the only thing I would reiterate are the CPD guidelines that when the candidates are talking, please hold any applause or any other reactions, except of course when they walk out. Make sure you cheer and loud and
Yeah, where's
applause
Joe
so that
Rogan?
everyone can hear
So
you.
Joe Rogan can
Thank
just
you
agree
for
with
having
everybody.
me. This is really the honor of a lifetime. I am going to sit down and just get organized and get settled, and the show
So,
will
what do
start
you guys
very
think
soon.
about legalizing all drugs? I do DMT. Literally Joe Rogan, if he was hosting the debates. Hey, what's up, Mike? So who's gonna win the debate? I think it's another one of those situations where if Biden doesn't completely mess up, then he technically wins. If Biden doesn't have a stroke, if Biden doesn't forget what he's talking about, you know, if Trump does what he did last debate and just acts like a petulant child, I don't think that's going to play well. It didn't play well before. 4 minutes. Maybe I have to refresh this or something. No? I said the other night, if Trump and Biden had to fist fight, I think Trump would win based on weight class. Because, like, Joe Biden could just be crushed underneath Donald Trump's immense 350-pound, 6-foot-tall body. Trump's a thick boy. Biden's like 150 pounds now. Four minutes. Good polling data out this week. Only 10% of Fox News viewers thinks black people should be able to protest. White people, I think it's like 60% should be able to protest. I had to do an assignment on media influence for school, so I watched Fox News for a couple days. And I see why people think there's a conspiracy to topple Western civilization. Because Fox News is literally just, Antifa's going to come kill your family. And if you're in the suburbs, all the people from the projects are going to move in. By that, they mean all the blacks will move in. But that's what they're trying to say. We all know that. That's what Trump says. I'm going to protect the suburbs. If Joe Biden's president, he's going to let all the projects move and build next to the suburbs. I will protect you from these people from the suburbs. These, How long? Another 2 minutes? We should have a corruption battle between Joe Biden's kids and Donald Trump's kids. Not really a fair fight. Trump's kids would dominate Hunter Biden. Trump's kids made so much more money off of the presidency than Hunter Biden did. Plexiglass? No. It looks like there's nothing. You would think they would demand that. But maybe Donald Trump tested positive. I'm not sure if that was in the rules for this week's debate. No more honor system like last week. Or last debate. That was what, 3 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago. God, that was so exciting when Donald Trump announced he had COVID. That buzz died down quick. After he got the Regeneron dosage up his butt. Now he feels all good. Yeah. So that's the Union and the Constitution forever. I'm not sure what that symbol's from. That's above them right here. Whitey's rules. Oh no. It's really interesting. If you watch Reagan speeches and Nixon speeches, like when Nixon was about to push forward the war on drugs, it sounds a lot like a modern day Trump speech. It's literally just instead of saying black people, they say people from the projects, and they say thugs. Before they would say the N-word and black people before the civil rights movement. Like if you read the New Jim Crow, you'll see that transition in different racial caste systems. The implicit bias. They hide it so much better now. That's how you can get someone like Amy Coney Barrett loved by half the nation, although she's an absolute nut job. People care about optics. She is crazy too. She's gonna try to push for like gay marriage to be reversed. Shout out to the Pope for not being a complete idiot, saying that there should be a civil union between people of the same sex, calling for that. But let's be real. The Catholic Church is only doing stuff like that because they need to. My friend made a good point. Like, science always drags up religion along with it. So, like, science, once they push forward evolution, then Christians made evolution work for them. They said, oh, evolution was actually designed by God.
Good evening from Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm Kristen Welker of NBC
If they keep being
News,
anti-gay in the church,
to the final
they're going to lose so many
presidential
members.
Debate between President Donald J. Trump
They're already
and
dying
former Vice
as a
President Joe
religion.
Biden. Tonight's debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates.
Much more secular
It
now.
is conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Commission's health security advisor. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, boos, or other interruptions, except right now, as we welcome to the stage former Vice President Joe Biden and President Donald
Who's
J.
she?
Trump.
Does she have a slant to her? Like right or left? Oh, he's wearing the mask.
And I do want to say a very good evening to both of you. This debate will cover 6 major topics. At the beginning of each section, each candidate will have 2 minutes uninterrupted to answer my first question. The debate commission will then turn on their microphone only when it is their turn to answer, and the commission will turn it off exactly when the 2 minutes have expired.
Oh, boy.
After that, both microphones
This is
will
gonna be
remain
funny.
on. But on behalf
boy.
of the
This is
voters,
gonna
I'm
be a
going
comedy.
to ask you to please speak one at a time. The goal is for you to hear each other and for the American people to hear every word of what you both have to say. And so with that, if you're ready,
I don't want to hear
let's
either of
start.
them.
And we will begin with the fight against the coronavirus. President Trump, the first question is for you. The country is heading into a dangerous new phase. More than 40,000 Americans are in the
He's gonna say it's
hospital
not
tonight
happening.
with COVID, including record numbers here in Tennessee. And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the
Oh, my
greatest
God.
economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease.
That number
came
was
from
if we did
China.
nothing.
It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places right now. If you notice, the mortality rate is down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country. And we're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone. There was a very big spike in Texas.
Not
It's
true.
now gone.
Not
there
true.
was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone.
Not true.
And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone. We have a vaccine that's coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks, and it's going to be delivered. We have Operation Warp Speed, which is the military is going to distribute the vaccine. I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital. I had it. And I got better, and I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure. But I was in for a short period of time, and I got better very fast, or I wouldn't be here tonight.
What is he
And now they
talking
say I'm
about?
immune. Whether it's 4 months or a lifetime, nobody's been able to say
This
that.
has nothing
but
to do with the
I'm immune.
question.
More and more people are getting better. We have a problem that's a worldwide problem. This is a worldwide problem. But I've been congratulated by the heads of many countries on what we've been able to do. If you take a look at what we've done in terms of goggles and masks and gowns and everything else, and in particular ventilators, we're now making ventilators all over the world, thousands and thousands a month, distributing them all over the world. It will go away, and as I say, we're rounding the turn. We're rounding
the
the
turn.
corner. It's going away.
Yeah, we'll see about
Okay,
that.
former Vice President
We'll
Biden,
see about
to
that.
you, how would you lead the country
Warp
out of this
speed.
crisis?
Yeah,
You
that's
have
a funny
2
one.
minutes uninterrupted.
220,000 Americans dead. If you hear nothing else I say tonight, hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially, anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day now, 1,000 deaths a day. And there are over 70,000 new cases per day. Compared to what's going on in Europe, as the New England Medical Journal said, they're starting from a very low rate. We're starting from a very high rate. The expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. If we just wore these masks, the president's own advisors have told him, we could save 100,000 lives.
God, he sounds so bad.
And we're in a
like-
circumstance where the president thus far and still has no plan, no comprehensive plan. What I would do is make sure we have everyone encouraged to wear a mask all the time. I would make sure we move in the direction of rapid testing, investing in rapid testing. I would make sure that we set up national standards as to how to open up schools and open up businesses so they can be safe and give them the wherewithal, the financial resources to be able to do that. We're in a situation now where the New England Medical Journal, one of the most serious journals in the whole
Is
world,
he saying the same thing
said
again?
for the first time ever that the way this president has responded to this crisis has been absolutely tragic. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure
It's
we
barely
have a plan.
understandable. Imagine losing to
President
him.
Trump, I'd like to follow up with you and your comments.
Imagine
You talked
Trump
about
losing
taking a
to him.
therapeutic
Imagine how
vaccine.
bad
You're
Trump is.
referencing Regeneron. You also
Trump
said
should
a
cry.
vaccine will be coming within weeks.
Yes.
Is that a guarantee?
No, it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are two companies, I think, within
No,
a
it's
matter
not a
of weeks.
guarantee. I just said that,
and
sorry.
it will be distributed very quickly.
Can you tell us which companies?
Johnson & Johnson is doing very well. Moderna is doing very well. Pfizer is doing very well. And we have numerous others. Then we also have others that we're working on very closely with other countries, in particular Europe.
Let me follow up with you, and because this is new information, you have said a vaccine is coming soon, within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And even then, they say the country will be wearing masks and distancing into 2022. Is your timeline realistic?
No, I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're counting on the military the way I do,
Chauvin.
but we have our generals lined up, one in particular, that's the head of logistics. And this is a very easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine. And we expect to have 100 million vials. As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
Vice President Biden, your reaction, and just 40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists of the world see it, know it, look at it, go through all the processes.
He can barely
And by the
finish
way,
words.
This is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter. And he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you have no
I don't think we're
plan.
going to have a dark winter at all.
Oh,
We're
God.
opening up our country. We've learned and studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China from coming in heavily
Same
infected,
talking
and then
point.
ultimately
So
Europe.
bad.
But China was in January. Months later, he was saying I was xenophobic. I did it too soon. Now
Proving
he's
he has
saying,
no plan to the
I should
future.
have, I should have, moved
He's still
quicker."
talking about
But
China.
He didn't move quicker. He was months behind me, many months behind me. And frankly, he ran the H1N1 swine flu, and it was a total disaster, far less lethal, but it was a total disaster. Had that had this kind of numbers, 700,000 people would be dead right now, but it was a far less lethal disease. Look, his own person who ran that for him, who, as you know, was his chief of staff, said it was catastrophic, it was horrible, we didn't know what we were doing. Now he comes up and he tells us how to do this. Also, everything that he said about the way every single move that he said we should make, that's what we've done. We've done all of it. But he was way behind us.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Our response is he is xenophobic, but not because he shut down access from China. And he did it late after 40 countries had already done that. In addition to that, what he did, he made sure that we had 44 people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine what exactly the source was. What did the president say in January? He said, no, he said, he's being transparent. The president of China is being transparent. We owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to thank him. And,
Yeah, this
and
is
then
bad.
what happened was we started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get whatever is needed out there to protect people. And again, I go back to this. He had nothing. He did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about, don't worry, it's all going to be over soon. Come on. There's not another serious scientist in the world who thinks it's going to be over soon.
President Trump, your reaction?
I say over soon. I say we're learning to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does. He has the ability to lock himself up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace, but he has this thing about living in a basement. People can't do that.
This is
By the
still
way,
no.
I,
This
as
is
the
not.
president couldn't
This
do
can't
that.
be
I'd
real.
love to put myself in the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it disappears.
This is
I
coming
can't
from
do
Bunker
that.
Boy.
And Kirsten, every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families. Every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to. It would be horrible to have canceled everything. I said, this is dangerous. And you catch it. And, I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors, great hospitals. And now I recovered. 99.9 of young people recover. 99% of people recover.
99.9 of young people.
We can't close up our nation. We have to open our school, and we can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
And of course, the CDC has said young people can get sick with COVID-19 and can pass it. Vice President Biden, I want to talk broadly about strategy, though.
Can I respond to that?
30 seconds, please, and then
30
I have a
seconds.
question.
No, number one, he says that we're learning to live with it. People are learning to die with it. You folks home will have an empty chair at the kitchen table this morning. That man or wife going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch their, out of habit, where their wife or husband was, is gone. Learning to live with it. Come on. We're dying with it because
That was a
he's
good
never
answer.
said,
That was-
said
that
it's
was,
dangerous. When's the last
that was
time?
actually
Is it
good.
really dangerous still? Are we dangerous? You tell the people it's dangerous now? What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
Let me talk about your two.
Excuse me, I take full responsibility.
No, what?
It's not my fault that it came here. It's China's fault. And you know what? It's
But
not
it is
Joe's
my fault that it
came
got
here
worse,
either.
right?
It's China's fault. They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
Vice President Biden.
The fact is that when we knew it was coming, when it hit, what happened? What did the president say? He said, don't worry, it's going to go away. Be gone by Easter. Don't worry, the warm weather. Don't worry, maybe inject bleach. He said he was kidding when he said that, but a lot of people thought it was serious. A whole range of things the president has said. Even today, he thinks we are in control. We're about to lose 200,000 more people.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps just to finish this, I was kidding on that, but just to finish this, when I closed, he said I shouldn't have closed. And that went on for months. Nancy Pelosi said the same thing. She was dancing on the streets in Chinatown in San Francisco. But when I closed, he said, this is a terrible thing.
No
You're xenophobic.
Americans give a
I think
shit
he called
about
me
any of
racist
this.
even. And because I was closing it to China. Now he says I should have closed it earlier. It just, Joe, it doesn't work.
I didn't say either of those things.
You
I didn't
certainly
say
did.
sugarcoat
You
Rosie,
certainly
and I
did.
I talked about a xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to talk about both of your different strategies to handling
He thought
this.
I shouldn't have closed the border.
Well, let's-
That's obvious.
God.
Is that, do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice President
No.
Biden? Okay.
No.
Let's talk about your different strategies toward dealing with this. Mr. Vice
No.
President, you suggested you would support new shutdowns if scientists recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are fearful that the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse outweighs the risk of exposure to the virus?
What I would say is I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country.
Oh, that's
It's his
good.
ineptitude
That's pretty.
to cause the
That's
the
prepared.
country to have to shut down in large part. Why businesses have gone under, why schools are closed, why so many people have lost their living.
Only Trump
and
can
why
make
they're
this look
concerned.
good.
Those other concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap in a golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about what to do about the acts they were passing for billions of dollars to make sure people had the capacity.
But you haven't ruled out more shutdowns.
Well, no, I'm not shutting down the neighbor, but there are, look, you need standards. The standard is if you have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level, everybody says, slow up.
Reproduction
More
rate.
social distancing.
No.
Do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums.
If we have
do
a
not open until
reproduction
you
rate,
get this under
what do you
control,
mean?
under more control. But when you do open, give the people the capacity to be able to open and have the capacity to do it safely. For example, schools. Schools, they need a lot of money to open. They need to deal with ventilation systems. They need to deal with smaller classes, more teachers, more pods. And he's refused to support that money, or at least up to now.
Let's talk about schools. President Trump,
I think we have to respond, if I might.
please, and then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Look, all he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats all, they're shut down so tight, and they're dying. They're dying. And he supports all these people. All he talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went
What?
away. young people.
He's like
I guess
a
it's their
snake oil
immune
salesman.
system.
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in person and insist they can do it safely.
Yeah, this is
but
just an ego
yesterday,
contest.
Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a coronavirus spike. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will
Imagine
endanger not
Bernie
only
in
their
this
kids,
debate
but
or
also their
anyone
teachers
else.
and families?
I want to open
Like a
the
progressive.
schools. The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small, but I want to open the schools. We have to open our country. We're not going to have a country. You can't do this. We can't
not
keep
gonna
this
have a
country
country.
closed. This is a massive country with a massive economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. There's abuse, tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often. The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. And that's what's happening. And he wants to close down. He'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Vice President Biden, your
Simply
response.
not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely open, but when they need resources to open. You need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business. You need to have, if you have a restaurant, you need to have plexiglass
Yeah, Biden's
dividers
killing him
so
just because
people
Trump is
cannot
actually.
infect one another. You need to be in a position where you can take
Trump can't-
testing
I don't even
rapidly
know.
and know whether a person is in fact infected. You need to be able to trace. You need to be able to provide all the resources that are needed to do this. And that is not inconsistent with saying that what we're going to make sure that we open safely. And by the way, all you teachers out there, not that many of you are going to die, so don't worry about it. So don't worry about it. Come on.
President Trump, let me follow up with you quickly.
By the way, I will say this. If you go and look at what's happened to New York, it's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. And when you talk about plexiglass, these are restaurants that are dying. These are businesses with no money. Putting up plexiglass is unbelievably
say it,
expensive.
Biden. Say it.
And it's not the
Say
answer.
people are
I mean,
dying.
You're going to sit there
Please,
in a
say it.
cubicle wrapped around
Say
with
it.
plastic.
Say it.
These are businesses that are dying, Joe. You can't do that to people.
Say
You
it.
just can't. Take a look at New York and what's happened to my wonderful city for so many years. I loved it. It was vibrant. It's dying. Everyone's leaving New York.
Take a look
Vice
at what
President
New
Biden.
York has done in terms of turning the curve
no,
down.
you didn't get the
in terms of
zinger,
number
you
of people
idiot.
dying.
You suck.
And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states. They're all the United States. And look at the states that are having such a spike in the coronavirus. They're the red states. They're the states in the Midwest. They're the states in the upper Midwest. That's where the spike is occurring
Wait,
significantly.
he just said.
But they're all Americans.
Oh, okay,
They're all
okay.
Americans. And what we have to do is say, wear these masks, number one. Make sure we get the help that the businesses need that has money's already been passed to do that. It's been out there since the beginning of the summer, and nothing's happened.
President, New York has lost more than 40,000 people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump, what
when you
about-
say spike, take a look at what's happening in Pennsylvania.
it wasn't bad.
where they've had it closed.
You can't
Take
say it's
a look at
bad and
what's
really
happening
bad at
with
the
your
same
friend
time.
In Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison. Now it was just ruled unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina. They're having spikes, and they've been closed. And they're getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe. You can't let that happen. We have to open up. And we understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect especially our seniors with heart problems and diabetes problems. And we will protect them. We have the best testing in the world by far. That's why we have so many cases.
Let me follow up
Because
with
it
you
shows.
before we move on to our next section. President Trump, this week you called Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's best-known infectious disease expert, quote, a disaster. You described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots. If you're not listening to them, who are you listening to as you fight this?
I'm listening to all of them, including Anthony. I get along very well with Anthony. But he did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem. I think he's a Democrat, but that's okay. He said this is not going to be a problem.
Oh.
We are not going to have a problem at all. When Joe says that,
He's a Democrat.
I said, Anthony Fauci said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look, nobody knew what this thing was. Nobody knew where it was coming from, what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words. This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
My response is that think about what the president knew in January and didn't tell the American people. He was told this was a serious virus that spread in the air, and it was much worse than the flu. He went on record and said to one of your colleagues, recorded, that in fact he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us. He didn't want to tell us because he didn't want us to panic. He didn't want us, Americans don't panic. He panicked. But guess what? In the meantime, we find out in the New York Times the other
who's he
day
looking
that,
at?
in fact, his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing. And a memo out of that meeting, not from his administration, but from some of the brokers, said sell short because we got to get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond, and then we're
the
going
Wall
to
Street
move
one,
on.
I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it.
I haven't.
You have raised a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals are made, Joe. I could raise so much more money. As president and as somebody that knows most of those people, I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America.
What?
I would
Oh,
blow
no,
away
he's doing
every
it.
record, but I don't want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me. I could blow away your records that, like you wouldn't believe. We don't need money. We have plenty of money. In fact, we beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able
All right, gentlemen, we're going to move
Don't
on.
tell me about Wall
Average
Street.
contribution, $43.
All right, we're going to move on to our next section, which is national security. And I do want to start with the security of our elections and some breaking news from overnight. Just last night, top intelligence officials confirmed again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence this election. Both countries have obtained U.S. voter registration information, these officials say, and Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida voters. This question goes to you, Mr. Vice President. What would you do to put an end to this threat? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
I made it clear, and I ask everyone else to take the pledge. I made it clear that any country, no matter who it is, that interferes in American elections will pay a price. They will pay a price. And it's been overwhelmingly clear this election, I won't even get into the last one, this election, that Russia has been involved, China has been involved to some degree, and now we learn that Iran is involved. They will pay a price if I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty. That's what's going on right now. They're interfering with American sovereignty. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think the president said anything to Putin about it. I don't think he's stalking them a lot. I don't think he said a word. I don't know why he hadn't said a word to Putin about it. And I don't know what he has recently said, if anything, to the Iranians. My guess is he'd probably be more outspoken with regard to the Iranians. But the point is this, folks. We are in a situation where we have foreign countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him that what is happening with his buddy, I will. His buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed information that is Russian.
Who's he looking
that
at?
is not true. And then what happens? Nothing happens. And then you find out that everything that's going on here about Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States because they know I know them and they know me. I don't understand why this president is unwilling to take on Putin when he's actually paying bounties to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan, when he's engaged in activities that are trying to destabilize all of NATO. I don't know why he doesn't do it, but it's worth asking the question, why isn't that being done? Any country that interferes with us will, in fact, pay a price because they're affecting our sovereignty.
President Trump, same question to you. Let me ask the question. You're going to have 2 minutes to respond. For 2 elections in a row now, there has been substantial interference from foreign adversaries. What would you do in your next term to put an end to this? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Well, let me respond to the first part, as Joe answered. Joe got $3.5 million from Russia, and it came
moderator's
through
doing
Putin
good.
because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow, and it was the mayor of Moscow's wife. And you got $3.5 million. Your family got $3.5 million, and you know, someday you're going to have to explain, why did you get 3.5? I never got any money from Russia. I don't get money from Russia. Now, about your thing last night, I knew all about that. And through John Ratcliffe, who is fantastic, DNI, he said, the one thing that's common to both of them, they both want you to lose because there has been nobody tougher to Russia. between the sanctions.
That's made
Nobody
up.
tougher
That's made
than
up,
me
though.
on Russia.
100%.
Between the sanctions, between all of what I've done with NATO, I've got the NATO countries to put up an extra $130 billion, going to $420 billion a year. That's to guard against Russia. I sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold tank busters to Ukraine.
Pillows and
there has been
sheets?
nobody tougher
Sleepy Joe.
on Russia than Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, they were so bad. They took over the submarine port. You remember that very well. During your term, during you and Barack Obama, they took over a big part of what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them. But you were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened. And I think you owe an explanation to the American people. Why is it? Somebody just had a news conference a little while ago who was essentially supposed to work with you and your family, but what he said was damning. And regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up and talk to the American people. Maybe you can do it right now.
Vice President Biden, you may respond. 30
straight
seconds.
here.
And then I do want to follow up on the election security.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life. We learned that this president paid 50 times the tax in China, has a secret bank account with China, does business in China, and in fact is talking about me taking money. I have not taken a single penny from any country whatsoever, ever. Number one. Number two, this is a president, I have released all of my tax returns, 22 years. Go look at them. 22 years of my tax return. You have not released a single solitary year of your tax return. What are you hiding? Why are you unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot.
This is so
China's
depressing.
paying you a lot. And your hotels and all your businesses all around the country, all around the world. And China's building a new road.
This should
to
not
a
be
new
the topic of a
golf
presidential
course
debate.
You have overseas. So what's going on here? Why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
President Trump, your response.
First of all, I called my accountants under audit. I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it, and it'll show how successful, how great this company is. But much more importantly than that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago, I said, what did I pay? They said, sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars. I prepaid my tax. Tens over the last number of years. Tens of millions of dollars I prepaid because at some point they think it's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax. So I already prepaid it. Nobody told me that.
Did your accountant
Nobody
tell you
told
when
you
you
that.
could release
Excuse
them?
me. And it wasn't written whenever they write this. They keep talking about $750, which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you, I prepaid millions and millions of dollars in taxes. Number one. Number two, I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know, maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's that all about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both some questions
I have
about
to
all of this,
respond to
but
that.
I'm going to let you both respond very quickly. You just said you spoke to your accountant
Yes.
about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell you when you can release them? Do you
As
have
soon
a
as the audit is
deadline for
finished.
when you're going to release them
I
to the
get
American
treated
people?
worse than the Tea Party got treated. Because
you
I have a
don't
lot
have
of
a time.
people in there,
What?
deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made a deal, it was all settled until I decide to run for president. I get treated very badly by the IRS, very unfairly. But we had a deal all done.
Interesting
As
route.
soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it. But I have paid millions and millions of dollars, and it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. I paid in advance.
I want to ask you both about questions regarding your potential foreign entanglements and questions that have been raised to give you both a chance
Some
to
point
talk
about
about this
responding
more
to this.
broadly. Respond very quickly, and then I'll get to my question.
Why did he's been saying this for 4 years? Show us. Just show us. Stop playing around. You've been saying for 4 years
Everybody
you're going to
knows
release your taxes. Nobody knows it, Mr. President. What they do know
Look at that
is
angle
you're
on
not
Trump.
paying your taxes.
Oh, he had
or
his
you're
mic
paying
muted.
taxes that are so low. When last time he said what he paid, he said, I only pay that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system. Come on, folks.
Very quickly, President Trump, and then I want to get to 2 questions to both of you on this.
I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong. $48 million. I guarantee you, if I spent $1 million on you, Joe, I could find plenty wrong. Because the kind of things that you've done and the kind of monies that your family has taken, I mean, your brother made money in Iraq. Millions of dollars. Your other brother made a fortune, and it's all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it, and you do live very well. You have houses all over the place. You live very well.
All right, gentlemen, let me just ask some questions about all of this broadly. Vice President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and for a Ukrainian energy company when you were vice president. In retrospect, was anything about those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal.
Here's what the deal.
With regard to Ukraine, we had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of a Burisma, a company, that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, I did my job impeccably.
You're more
carried
corrupt.
out U.S. policy.
No, you're more corrupt.
Not one single solitary thing was out of line.
You're more
Not
corrupt.
a single thing. Number one.
You're
Number
more
two,
corrupt.
the guy
That's
who
all
got
this
in
is.
trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe the Ukrainian government to say something negative about me, which they would not do and did not do because it never, ever, ever happened. My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China. I have not had, the only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
President Trump, let me ask my question to you.
But could I just, one thing?
Very quickly.
His son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military service. I won't get into that. And he didn't have a job. As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not the best reputation in the world. I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen to this. $183, and they gave him a $3 million upfront payment.
All right.
And he had no energy
I'm going to let the Vice President
That's
respond to that quickly,
100%
and then I need to get to a
dishonest.
question to you. Very quickly.
No basis for that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong in Ukraine.
Okay, President Trump, this is for you. Since you took office, you've never divested from your business. You've personally promoted your properties abroad. A report this week, which was referenced, does indicate that your company has a bank account in China. So how can voters know that you don't have any foreign conflicts of interest?
I have many bank accounts, and they're all listed, and they're all over the place. I mean, I was a businessman doing business. The bank account you're referring to, which is everybody knows about it, it's listed. The bank account was in 2013. That's what it was. It was open in
No one
it
at
was
home gives a
closed in
shit about any of this.
2015, I believe.
People need help.
And then I decided
People don't need
because
this
I was going to
bullshit.
I was thinking about doing a deal in China like millions of other people. I was thinking about it.
We're
and
already-
I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it.
We're at 40
Had
minutes
an
in.
account
It's a
open,
joke.
And I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before. So I closed it before I even ran for president, let alone became president. Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They're sucking up money.
President
every
Like a
Trump,
time
thank you.
vacuum
We do
cleaner.
need to move
True.
on.
Bars.
I do want to ask you, Vice President Biden, about China. Let's talk about China
Yeah.
more broadly. There have
A lot of
course,
votes are already cast.
President Trump has said that they should pay for not being fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus. If you were president, would you make China pay? And please be specific. What would that look like?
What I'd make China do is play by the international rules, not like he has done. He has caused the deficit of China to go up, not down, with China, up, not down. We are making sure that in order to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property, you have to have a partner in China. It's 51%. We would not do that at all, number one. Number two, we're in a situation where China would have to play by the rules internationally as well. When I met with Xi, when I was still vice president, he said we're setting up air identification zones in the South China Sea. You can't fly through them. I said we're going to fly through them. We just flew B-52, B-1 bombers through it. We're not going to pay attention. They have to play by the rules. And what's he do? He embraces guys like the thugs like in North Korea and the Chinese president and Putin and others, and he pokes his finger in the eye of all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up we're 25% of the world's economy. We need to be having the rest of our friends with us saying to China, these are the rules. You play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's the way I will run it, and that's what we did in upholding steel tariffs and a range of other things when we were president.
Yeah, imagine Bernie right now. There'd be zero corruption to talk about Bernie. Zero corruption for Bernie, dude.
Okay.
It'd be all
Very
policy
quickly, and then we're
discussion.
gonna move on to North
Only
Korea.
Trump would be the corrupt one.
From China to
Not
manage after
true.
spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force Two, number one. Number two, there's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10 million a year for introductions.
President
Good
Trump,
night,
on
Lionheart.
China policy, though, what
No, but wait a
specifically are
minute.
you going to do? What
Have a good
specifically
one.
are you going to do to make China pay? You've said you're going
First
to
of
make
all,
them pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. I just gave
New
$28 billion.
sanctions? New sanctions?
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers. because
Taxpayers'
China,
money.
It's what?
That is true.
Taxpayers' money. Didn't come from
You
China.
know who the taxpayer is? It's called China.
What?
China paid
No,
$28
no.
billion, and you know what
The
they did to
tariffs
pay
costed
it?
us like
They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also, I charged them 25% on dumped steel because they were killing our steel industry. We were not going to have a steel industry.
Okay.
And now we have a steel
Okay,
industry.
Vice President Biden, your response, please.
Our response is, look, this isn't about, there's a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason.
Malarkey
I
bomb.
want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. And your family's hurting.
that was
badly.
good. That was
If you're
good.
making
Good
less than-
job.
If you're a middle-class family,
Yep.
you're getting hurt badly right now.
Got a populism
You're
in.
sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires, they're bald because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the mortgage? Or who's going to tell her she can't go back to community college? They're the decisions you're making in the middle-class families like I grew up in Scranton and Claymont. They're in trouble. We should be talking about your families, but that's the last thing he wants to talk about.
I want
That is a
to talk
typical
about
statement.
North Korea.
Excuse me, just
I do
for
want
1
to turn
second,
to
please.
10 seconds, Mr. President.
That's
10
a
seconds.
typical political
Oh,
statement.
the malarkey got him
Let's
warmed
get off
up.
this China thing, and then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. Just a typical politician when I see that.
Let's
bad
talk
move,
about
Trump.
North
Typical
Korea now.
politician.
Okay,
That's why I got
President
elected.
Let's
Let's get off the subject of China. Let's talk around sitting
I
around
don't
the
care
table.
about people.
Come on, Jimmy, you
Ugh.
can do better.
We're going to talk about North Korea now. President Trump, you've met
I'm
with
not a
North
typical
Korean leader Kim
politician. I
Jong-un
don't even
3
pretend to
times.
like you.
You've talked about your beautiful letters with him. You've touted the fact that there hasn't been a war
Oh,
or
yeah,
a
the
long-range
tariffs.
missile test, and yet North Korea recently rolled out its biggest ever intercontinental ballistic missile and continues to develop its nuclear arsenal. Do you see that as a betrayal of the relationship you forged? Just 30 seconds here because we need to get on to the next.
So when I met with Barack Obama, we sat in the White House right at the beginning, had a great conversation. It was supposed to be 15 minutes, and it was well over an hour. He said the biggest problem we have with North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war, and he does have plenty of nuclear capability.
What?
In the meantime, I have a very good relationship with him. Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing.
Different kind of a
about me.
guy?
We have a
What?
different kind of
That's not how this
relationship.
works.
We have a
No,
very good
he's a
relationship,
dictator.
and there's no
That
war.
makes his
And,
citizens starve.
About 2 months ago, he broke
Induces
into
famine
a
on his own
certain area. They
population.
said, oh, there's going to be trouble. I said, no, they're not.
An authoritarian
Because he's not gonna do
dictator.
that. And I was right. Look, instead of being in a war where millions of people, Seoul, you know, is 25 miles away, millions and millions, 32 million people in Seoul.
This is
Millions
all
of people would
bullshit.
be
This
dead
is not
right
even
now.
real.
President
We
Trump,
don't have a
that's
war,
30
and I have a
seconds.
good
Thank you.
relationship.
No one would
Vice
start a war
President
with
Biden,
North
to you,
Korea.
North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration.
f-
Why do you think you would be able to rein in this persistent threat right
Because
now?
I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's I made it clear, and as a spokesperson of the administration when I went to China, that they said, "Why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why you continue to do military maneuvers with South Korea? I said, because North Korea is a problem, and we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something about it, step up and help. If not, it's going to continue. What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy, who's a thug, and he talks about how we're better off. And they have much more capable missiles, able to reach U.S. territory much more easily than ever did before.
Let me follow up with you, Vice President Biden. You've said you wouldn't meet with Kim Jong-un without preconditions. Are there any conditions under which you would meet with him?
On the condition that he would agree that he would be drawing down his nuclear capacity to get the Korean Peninsula should be nuclear-free zone.
All right, let's move on to American families.
Kristen, they tried
Very
to
quickly,
meet with
10
him.
seconds,
They
President.
tried to meet with him. He wouldn't do it. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I
know
gotta
for
give him a
fact they
chance to
tried.
Trump is
respond to
doing a
that
terrible
before we
job
go
at
on.
relating
And
to
that's
actual
okay.
people.
You know
All the
what?
issues
North
he's talking
Korea,
about are very
we're not in a
niche,
war.
like
We have a good
conspiracy
relationship.
stuff.
You know, people don't understand. Having a good
President
relationship
Trump,
with
we have
leaders
to
of
move
other
on, 'cause
countries
we have
is
a lot
a
of
good thing.
We have a lot of questions to get
Yes,
to.
not
That's
Your
like
response.
saying we had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded Europe, the rest of Europe. Come on. The reason he would not meet with President Obama is because President Obama said, we're going to talk about denuclearization. We're not going to legitimize you, and we're going to continue to put stronger and stronger sanctions on you.
Ooh, strong claim
That's why
with
he
the Hitler.
wouldn't meet with us.
All right,
And
let's
it didn't
move
happen.
on. Let's
Excuse
move on
me.
and talk
What
about
didn't
American
happen?
families.
Mess, Kristen.
President Trump. Okay, we do
They
need to
left
move on.
me a mess. North
What?
Korea was a mess.
No, it's
and
not
in
how
fact,
it
if
works.
you remember the
So that we can
first
get to
2
all
or
of
3
our
months,
questions tonight,
there was a
President
very
Trump.
dangerous period in my first 3 months before we sort of worked things out a little bit.
Okay.
There was a they left us a mess. And Obama would be, I think, the first to say it was the single biggest problem he thought that our country had.
Okay, let's move on to American families and the economy. One of the issues that's most important to them is health care, as you both know. Today, there was a key vote on a new Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, and health care is at the center of her confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court, and your administration, Mr. President, is advocating for the court to overturn it. If the Supreme Court does overturn that law, those 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance almost overnight. So what would you do if those people have their health insurance taken away? You have 2 minutes
we go.
uninterrupted.
First of all, I've already done something
Healthcare.
that nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate. That is the worst part of Obamacare.
That kicked
as we call
15
it.
million people
The
off their health
individual
care
mandate
instantly.
Where you have to pay a fortune for the
Poor
privilege
people.
of not having to pay for bad health insurance. I terminated. It's gone. Now it's in court because Obamacare is no good. But then I made a decision: run it as well as you can to my people, great people.
He stopped
Run it as well
paying
as you can. I
subsidies
could have gone the other route
for
and made everybody
premiums,
very
making
unhappy.
premiums
They ran
skyrocket.
it. Premiums are down. Everything's down.
Wrong.
Here's the problem: no matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do is
He stopped
terminate
limiting
it.
corporate
We
profits.
Have the individual mandate done.
He stopped.
I don't know that it's going to work. If we don't win,
He stopped
we'll
Medicaid
have
expansion.
to run it, and we'll have Obamacare, but it'll be better
He
run.
stopped
But it
helping
no
finding
longer
people
is
health care.
Obamacare, because without the individual mandate, it's much different. Pre-existing conditions will always stay. What I would like
That's
to
not
do
true.
is a much better health care, much better, will always protect people with pre-existing.
He has no plan.
So I'd like to
That's not how
terminate
policy
Obamacare,
works.
Come up with a brand new, beautiful health care. The Democrats will do it because
brand
there'll
new,
be
beautiful
tremendous
health care.
pressure on them, and we might even have the House by that time. And I think we are going to win the House. Okay, you'll see.
He has
but I
no
think we're
clue what
gonna
he's
win the
doing.
House.
They have no
But
plan.
come up with a
It's
better
bullshit.
health care, always protecting people with pre-existing conditions. And one thing very
You can't
important,
feasibly
we
do
have
that without a
180
mandate, without
million people
Obamacare.
out there that have great private health care, far more than we're talking about with Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to terminate all of those policies. These
That's
are
not
people
true
that
at all.
love their health care.
That's not.
People that have been
Oh my God.
successful.
Biden is running on the current
people
system
Been successful.
that we already
They
have.
180 million plans, 180 million people, families, under what he wants to do, which will
He's
basically
attacking
be
Biden as
socialized
if he's running
medicine.
on
You won't even have a
M4A.
choice.
That's not
They
true
want to
at
terminate
all.
180 million
I wish he
plans.
was running on
We have done
socialized
an
medicine.
Incredible job on health care, and we're going to do even better.
Okay,
Let me
Vice
respond.
President Biden, yes, this is for you. Your health care plan calls for building on Obamacare. So my question is, what is your plan if the law is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
What I'm going to do is pass Obamacare with a public option. It'll become Biden-care. The public option is an option that says that if you, in fact, do not have the wherewithal if you qualify for Medicaid and you do not have the wherewithal in your state to get Medicaid, you automatically are enrolled, providing competition for insurance companies. That's what's going to happen. Secondly, we're going to make sure we reduce the premiums and reduce drug prices by making sure that there's competition that doesn't exist now by allowing the Medicare to negotiate drug prices with the insurance companies. Thirdly, the idea that I want to eliminate private insurance, the reason why I had such a fight with 20 candidates for the
Here he
nomination
goes.
was I support private insurance. That's why I didn't. Not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they.
His plan is literally to force people to buy private insurance.
Unless
Just remember that.
they wanted to go to something else. Lastly, we're going to make sure we're in a situation that we actually.
The mandate Trump eliminated was a mandate to say every person had to buy into a private market. That's how Obamacare worked. It's a free market healthcare solution. It's not. Oh my God, this is so enraging.
He can protect pre-existing conditions. None, zero. You can't do it in the ether. He's been talking about this for a long time. He's never come up with a plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan that we've been waiting since 17, 18, 19, and 20. I still have a few more minutes. I know you're getting anxious. The fact is that he's already cost the American people, because of his terrible handling of the COVID virus and the economic spillover, 10 million people have lost their private insurance. And he wants to take away 22 million more people who have it under Obamacare, and over 110 million people with pre-existing conditions. And all the people from COVID are going to have pre-existing conditions. What are they going to do?
I have a follow-up for you, Vice President Biden. It relates to something that President Trump said. He's accusing you of wanting socialized medicine. What do you say to people who have concerns that your health care plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country one step closer to a health care system run entirely by the government? What's your response
it's
to them?
ridiculous. It's like saying that,
Oh my God.
we're
As
the
if that's a
idea
bad
the
thing.
fact that
All
there's
the
a
good
public
countries
option
have
people can
that.
choose,
Universal
that
health
makes it a
care.
socialist plan. Look, the difference between the president, I think health care is not a privilege, it's a right. Everyone should have the right to have affordable health care. And I am very proud of my plan. It's gotten endorsed by all the major labor unions, as well as a whole range of other people who, in fact, are concerned in the medical field. This is something that's going to save people's lives, and this is going to give some people an opportunity to have health care for their children. How many of you home are worried and rolling around in bed tonight wondering what in God's name you're going to do if you get sick? Because you've lost your home insurance, your health insurance, your company's gone under. We have to provide health insurance for people at an affordable rate, and that's what I do.
President Trump,
Excuse me, he was
your
there
response.
for 47 years. He didn't do it.
This
He
isn't
was
even
now
a.
there as
Oh,
vice
this is such a
president
bad
for 8
attack.
years, and it's not like it was 25 years ago. It was 3 3/4. It was just a little while ago, right? Less than 4 years ago. He didn't do anything. He didn't do it. He wants socialized medicine, and it's not that he wants it. His vice president, I mean, she is more liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it. You're going to have socialized medicine, just like you went with fracking. We're not going to have fracking. We're going to stop fracking. We're going to stop fracking. Then he goes to Pennsylvania after he gets a nomination, where he got very lucky to get it. And he goes to Pennsylvania, and he says, oh, we're going to have fracking. And you never asked that question. And by the way, so far, I respect very much the way you're handling this, I have to say.
By the way.
But somebody should ask the question.
You can ask
He goes for a year. There will be
We
no
have
fracking.
we do have a number of
Wild.
topics we're
No,
going to
but
get
that's a
to.
big- that's a big question.
We're going to get to. We're going to get to.
It's
the
This
same
country
thing
is
with
so
socialized
broken.
I have
medicine.
to respond.
Vice President,
This country is so
your response.
broken.
My response
Ow,
is
it hurts
people
my head.
deserve to have affordable health care, period. Period, period, period. And the Biden care proposal will, in fact, provide for that affordable health care, lower premiums. What we're going to do is going to cost some money. It's going to cost over $750 billion over 10 years to do it. And they're going to have lower premiums. You can buy into the better plans, the cheaper plans, lower your premiums, deal with unexpected billing, and have your drug prices dropped significantly. He keeps talking about it. He hasn't done a thing for anybody on health care. Not a thing.
Kristen, when
Very
he
quickly,
says,
then I want to talk
when
about
he
what's
says
happening on
public
Capitol
option,
Hill.
he's talking about socialized medicine.
No.
And when he and healthcare. When he talks about a public option, he's talking about destroying your Medicare.
No, that's not true.
Totally destroy-
That's not how it
and
works. The
destroying your-
public option, if you don't know, is literally just a government plan you can buy instead of private healthcare insurance. It creates more competition in the market. It's a plan that isn't for profit, unlike private health insurance plans are. So it says, like, okay, if we have a government option you could buy into, that will make the private insurers lower their costs. That's how it works. It's not socialized medicine. It's not what Trump is saying.
Your Social Security, and this whole country will come down. You know, Bernie Sanders tried it in his state. He tried it in his state. His governor was a very liberal governor. They wanted to make it work.
Okay,
It
let's
was
let Vice President
impossible
Biden
to work.
respond.
It doesn't
Vice
work.
President
He's
Biden
very
will
confused
respond.
Biden
guy.
isn't
He
for
thinks He's
M4A.
running against somebody else. He's running against Joe Biden. I beat all those other people because I disagreed with them. Joe Biden he's running against. And the idea that we're in a situation that they're going to destroy Medicare, this is the guy that the actuary at Medicare said, if in fact, at Social Security, if in fact he continues to withhold his plan to withhold the tax on Social Security will be bankrupt by 2023 with no way to make up for it. This is the guy who's tried to cut Medicare. So I mean, the idea that Donald Trump is lecturing me on Social Security and Medicare? Come on.
He tried to get
10
rid of.
seconds,
He
Mr.
tried to hurt
President, and then I
Social
have to go to
Security
another
years
question.
ago. Years ago. Go back and look at the records. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago.
All
One
right,
thing,
let's move
but
on.
This
I'm
is
going to
the
move
guy
on.
that when they
Mr.
announced
President, I have to
last
move
week,
on to the next question.
They said
or
the
else
stock
we're not
market
going to
will
have time
boom
to talk about it.
if I'm elected. If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Okay,
The
let's
biggest
move on to the
analysts are
next
saying
question.
that.
Let me respond.
Very quickly.
Look, the idea that the stock market is booming is his only measure of what's happening. Where I come from in Scranton and Claymont, the people don't live off of the stock market. Just in the last three years during this crisis, the billionaires in this country made, according to the Wall Street, $700 billion more dollars. $700 billion more dollars. Because that's his only measure. What happens to the ordinary people out there? What happens to them?
Let's talk about what's happening on Capitol Hill. We're going to move on, gentlemen.
401ks are through the roof.
We're gonna
People's
move on.
stock are through the roof.
All
And
right.
he doesn't come from Scranton. That's like he lived there for a short period of time before he even knew it.
We're going to move on to
and
the
he
next
left.
question.
And the people of Pennsylvania
Let me
will
move
show
on
you
to my
that.
next question,
They
gentlemen.
understand.
As of tonight, more than
Where's the
12
mic
million
mute?
people are out of work. And as of tonight, 8 million more Americans have fallen into poverty, and more families are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest are women and people of color. They see Washington fighting over a relief bill. Mr. President, why haven't you been able to get them the help they need? 30 seconds here.
Because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve it. I do.
But you're the president.
I do, but I still have to get. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House because of her. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories on a date called November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi does not want to approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone through, including the Democrats, in all fairness. This one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right,
By the
Mr.
way,
Vice President,
you know, the Republican leader in the United States Senate said he can't pass it. He will not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why isn't he talking to his Republican friends?
let me follow up with you, Vice President
we made a
Biden,
deal, the
because
Republicans
let me
will
ask
pass
Vice
it.
President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to get a deal for the American people?
Well, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they passed this act all the way back in the beginning of the summer. This is like it's not new. It's been out there. This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at what's happening. When I was in charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion to local communities that have to balance their budgets and states that have to balance their budgets, so they didn't have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement officers, so they could keep their cities and counties running. He will not support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on. What's the matter
The
with
bill
these
that was
guys?
passed in the House was a bailout of badly run, high-crime, Democrat, all run by Democrats, cities and states. It was a way of getting a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars to these kids. It was also a way of getting a lot of money from our people's pockets to people that come into our country illegally. We were going to take care of everything for them. And what that does, and I'd love to do that, I'd love to help them, but what that does, everybody all over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking care of them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states.
All right,
If I get elected, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states and blue states. What I see is American, United States. And folks, every single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue, cops,
I don't want to watch this anymore. I think we could call it. Joe Biden won. Donald Trump is a dumbass.
And the founders were smart. They allowed the federal government to deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America.
I want to talk about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, we are talking a lot
These
about
are some
struggling
good
small
two options,
businesses
right?
And business owners.
We got
these
you know,
days.
picking from the
this
best
is the
over
right
here.
time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum wage.
I do, because I think one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bail them out, too. We should be bailing them out now, those small businesses. You got 1 in 6 of them going under. They're not going to be able to make it back. They passed a package that allows us to be able to call PPP. Money is supposed to go to help them do everything from organize how they can deal with their businesses being open safely. Schools, how they can make classrooms smaller, how they can hire more teachers, how they can put ventilation systems in. They need the help. The businesses as well as the schools need the help. But these guys will not help them. Is not giving them any of the money.
We are going to move on to
Excuse me,
immigration,
one thing very
but I
quickly.
want
He
to
said
get
we
your
have to help our
reaction.
small businesses by raising the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it should be a state option. Alabama is different than New York. New York is different from Vermont. Every state is different.
You know,
it should be a state option.
You said very
we have
recently.
to help. It's very important. We have to help our small businesses. How are you helping your small businesses when you're forcing wages? What's going to happen, and what's been proven to happen, is when you do that, these small businesses fire many of their employees.
You said very recently you would
Economic
consider
studies that say
raising
that's
the
not
federal
true,
minimum
actually.
wage to $15.
Many studies done.
You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to
What I
$15
really
an hour. Is that
like,
still the case?
And I would consider it to an extent, but
In a
what I
second
really
To an
like-
extent.
what
I would
in a
consider it
second
to an extent.
administration, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. It should be a state option. Look, I've lived in different places. I know different places. They're all different. Some places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would be
Okay, President
ruinous.
Trump, thank you. Quick response, Vice President Biden.
2 jobs, 1 job, be below poverty. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour. These first responders, we all clap for as they come down the street because they've allowed us to make it. What's happening? They deserve a minimum wage of $15. Anything below that puts you below the poverty level. And there is no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out of business. That is simply not true.
We're going to talk about immigration. We're going to talk about immigration now, gentlemen, and we're going to talk about families within this context. Mr. President, your administration separated children from their parents at the border, at least 4,000 kids. You've since reversed your zero-tolerance policy.
Is Trump going to say
The
he did it too?
United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
Interesting question.
Children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country.
No, this is
we now have
family
as strong
separation.
a border as we've
This-
ever had.
no.
We're over 400 miles
No.
of brand new wall.
Obama
You see the
deported twice
numbers.
as
So
many
we let
people as
in, but
Trump.
They have to come in legally, and they
Which
come in
isn't
through
good
Mexico.
either, but-
Let me just tell you.
Kids with their families.
According to the
They
argument.
built cages. You know, they used to say, I built the cages. And then they had a picture in a certain newspaper. And it was a picture of these
What a good
horrible
debate.
cages. And they said, look at these cages.
I built the cages. No,
President
you
Trump
built the
them.
cages.
And then it was determined
It's your
they
fault.
were built.
No, it's your fault.
In 2014.
You're corrupt.
That was
No, I'm
him.
corrupt.
Do you
They
have a
built
plan to
cages.
reunite the kids
Yes,
with
we're
their
working on
families?
it we're trying very hard. But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes.
This
and through
isn't true at
gangs.
all.
Vice
This is
President
all
Biden,
family
let me bring you into
separation.
this conversation. Quick response, and then another question to you.
These 500-plus kids came with parents. They separated them at the border to make it a disincentive to come to begin with. Real tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot, it's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation.
Let me ask you a follow-up
Kristen,
question.
they did it. We changed the policy.
Your response
they
to that?
did it. We
No,
changed
no,
it.
he made
They
it worse.
built the cages.
Stop
They-
lying.
Who
I
built
hate
the
him,
cages,
dude.
Joe?
Let's
Holy.
talk about what
Who built
we're
the
talking about.
cages,
Let's
Joe?
talk
Who
about
built
what
the
we're talking
cages,
about.
Joe?
What happened? Parents were
God.
ripped, their kids were ripped from their arms and separated. And now they cannot find over 500 sets of those parents, and those kids are alone. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say this.
immigration.
Obama
They
did
went
it
back
too,
with
though.
Borders, everything. They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
But some
that
of
have
them
gotten
have-
Oh,
such good-
shit,
But
this
just
is such
answer
a-
one question.
Oh, my
Who
God,
built the
dude.
cages? I'd love you to ask him that. Who built the cages?
Let me ask about your immigration policy, Mr. Vice President. The Obama administration did fail to deliver immigration reform, which had been a key promise during the administration. It also presided over record deportations as well as family detentions at the border before changing course. So why should voters trust you with an immigration overhaul now?
Because we made a mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. And the fact is, I've made it very clear. Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship. The idea that they are being sent home by this guy and they want to do that is they've gone to a country
I don't
they've
even
never
enjoy this
seen
at all.
before.
I want to be
I can
debating
imagine
policy
you're
and
5
who
years
performed
old,
better
your
based on the
parents are
policy
taking you
side. I don't
across
want to talk about
the
theatrics
Rio
anymore. It's
Grande
not even fun.
River and it's
I'm not going to
and
make a
it's
video
illegal.
about this. I don't give
You
a
say,
shit.
"Oh,
It's
no, Mom,
bullshit.
leave me here.
I
I'm
mean,
not going to go with you. They've been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000
there's no
of
point.
them are first responders.
It's a waste of time.
Out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them. We owe them.
President
Kristen,
Trump,
he
your
had
reaction.
8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've changed
did.
without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing except build cages to keep children in.
Vice President
Wrong.
Biden, your response.
The catch and release, you know what he's talking about there? If in fact you had a family came across and they were arrested, they in fact were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were released. And guess what? They showed up for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of America that anybody seeking asylum has to do it in another country. That's never happened before in America. That's never happened before in America. You come to the United States and you make your case that I seek asylum based on the following.
That is very
on the
true.
following
That actually
premise,
is true.
Why I deserve it under American law.
that's the legal
They're
process.
sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
100% true, actually.
President Trump, your response.
They're
in
held in
30
legal
seconds, and then
legal
we'll-
It
limbo.
just shows that he has no understanding of immigration of
That's
the laws.
you literally
Catch
don't
and
get the
release
law.
is a
He just said what the
disaster.
legal process
A murderer
is.
would come in. A rapist
That's
would
not-
come
you-
in.
you're proving
a
that
very
you don't
bad
know shit.
person would come in. We
You're
would
just saying
take
conspiracy
their
theories.
name. We have to release them into our country.
That's not- there's
and
no-
Then you say they come back.
They have a lower crime
Less
rate than whites.
1%
They have a lower
of the
crime rate than
people
actual citizens.
Come back. We have to send ICE out and
That's not
Border
true.
Patrol out
Oh,
to find
my-
them. We would say, come back in 2 years.
Yeah, I want America
3
to think
years,
harder.
We're going to give you a court case. You need Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case. When you say they come back, they don't come back, Joe. They never come back. Only the really, I hate to say this,
Ooh,
but
what
those
is he gonna
with the
say?
lowest IQ,
What?
they might come back.
Okay,
But they're
President
very,
Trump, let's
very
give
What?
Vice President Biden
What?
a chance to respond.
Oh,
and then we're
my-
going to move on to the
You
next
don't know the
section.
law, Joe.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Know the law, what he's telling you is simply not true.
Well, check it out. They don't
You know
come
when
back.
Trump pauses before he says
right,
something,
let's
it's going to
move
be
We don't have to worry
bad.
about it 'cause they
Section.
terminated it, so we don't have to worry about it
Let's
anymore.
move on to the next
Yeah,
section.
Holy
525 kids not knowing where in God's name they're going to be and lost their parents.
Go ahead.
All right. Let's talk about our next section, which is race in America. And I want to talk about the way Black and brown Americans experience race in this country. Part of that experience is something called the talk. It happens regardless of class and income. Parents who feel they have no choice but to prepare their children
That IQ thing is straight like white nationalist neo-Nazi shit, by the way. Saying they have a low IQ.
for their skin. Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
I do. I do. You know, my daughter is a social worker, and she's written a lot about this. She has a graduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania in social work. And you know, one of the reasons why I ended up working on the east side of Wilmington, Delaware, which is 90% African American, was to learn more about what was going on. I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts, for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you. But a black parent, no matter how wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child, when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you go across the street. Making sure that you, in fact, if you get pulled over, just yes, sir, no, sir, hands on top of the wheel, because you are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making child of a $300,000 a year person or someone who's on food stamps. The fact of the matter is, there is institutional racism in America. And we have always said, we've never lived up to it, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal. Well, guess what? We have never, ever lived up to it, but we've always constantly been moving the needle further and further to inclusion, not exclusion. This is the first president to come along and says, that's the end of that. We're not going to do that anymore. We have to provide for economic opportunity, better education, better health care, better access to schooling, better access to opportunity to borrow money to start businesses. All the things we can do, and I've laid out a clear plan as to how to do those things, just to give people a shot. It's about accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
President Trump, same question to you, and let me remind you of the question. I would like you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in 1994 when he did such harm to the black community. And they were called, and he called them super predators. And he said that. He said it, super predators. And they have never lived that down. 1994, your crime bill, the super predators. Nobody has done more for the black community than Donald Trump. And if you look, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln, possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done what I've done.
I hate
Criminal
him.
justice
Holy
reform.
shit.
Obama and Joe didn't do it. I don't even think they tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture, and everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones with Tim Scott, a great senator from South Carolina. He came in with this incredible idea for opportunity zones. It's one of the most successful programs. People don't talk about it. Tremendous investment is being made. Biggest beneficiary, the black and Hispanic communities, and then historically black colleges and universities. After 3 years of
Trump is
coming to
actually
the office,
demented.
I love some of those guys. They were great. They came into the office.
Low
and they
IQs,
said-
dude.
I said, "What are you
Holy
doing?"
shit.
After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back? Because we have no funding. I said, you don't have to come back every year. We have to come back because President Obama would never give them long-term funding, and I did. 10-year long-term funding, and I gave them more money than they asked for because they said, I think you need more. And I said, the only bad part about this is I may never see you again because I got very friendly with them, and they like me and I like them. But I saved historically black colleges and universities.
Okay, and we're going to talk about both of your records, but your response to that, Vice President?
My response to that is I never, ever said what he accused me of saying. The fact of the matter is, in 2000, though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is a guy who said, the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail. There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get the quote, the date when he said it. Not enough people. He talked about marauding gangs.
Biden's
young gangs,
winning
and
100% this
the people who
debate.
are going to maraud our cities. This is a guy who in the Central
Only
Park
people with Trump
5,
still are
5
white
innocent
nationalists,
black
like
kids, he
actually.
continued to push for making sure that they got the death penalty.
Anyone
None
who
of them
still
were-
votes for him
none of
is
them
either
were
stupid
guilty
or
of what the crimes they were suggesting.
Straight
Look,
alt-right.
and talk about
They just don't know it yet.
Granted, he did in fact let 20 people. He commuted 20 people's sentences. We commuted over 1,000 people's sentences. Over 1,000. The very law he's talking about is a law that, in fact, initiated by Barack Obama. And secondly, we're in a situation here where the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 people under our administration. And one of these things we should be doing, there should be no minimum mandatories in the law. That's why I'm offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories and set up drug courts. No one should be going to jail because they have a drug problem. They should be going to rehabilitation, not to jail. We should fundamentally change the system, and that's what I'm going to do.
Isn't Hillary the one that said
Why
the
didn't he do
super
it
predator
4
thing?
years ago?
Hillary said that.
Why didn't you do that 4 years ago, even less than that? Why didn't you
I
do it?
am
You were
not-
vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do, and you're going to do this. But you were there just a short time ago, and you guys did nothing.
We did.
You know, Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama, because you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run. I would have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President Biden, your response to that, and then I do have some questions for both of you.
Well, I tell you what, I hope he does look at me, because what's happening here is, you know who I am, you know who he is, you know his character, you know my character, you know our reputations for honor and telling the truth. I am anxious to have this race. I am anxious to see this take place. The character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask some follow-up.
Excuse me.
Please respond,
If
and then we're
this
going to have
stuff
follow-up
is
questions.
true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
All right.
So don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody-
Take a look
President
at the
Trump, I
laptop
want to
from
stay
hell.
on the issue
Excuse
of
me,
race. We're
take a
talking
look
about
at
the issue.
laptop from hell.
President Trump, we're
Nobody-
talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
And I
you've
have to
just
respond to that.
Please,
Because look,
very
there
quickly.
are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the five former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And
You
that's
gotta be-
exactly what-
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what
This
was
is
told.
where he's going. The
All right.
laptop is Russia,
Yes.
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go
President,
again with Russia.
We're going to continue
Boy,
on the
oh,
issue of race. Mr. President,
believe
you've
that one.
described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters. You've said that black professional athletes exercising their First Amendment rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from a president is contributing to a climate of hate and racial strife?
Well, you have to understand, the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket,
what?
talking about police. Pigs.
They?
Pigs, talking about our police.
Holy shit, I
Pigs in
hate-
a blanket,
holy.
Fry them like bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street. And that was my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far as my relationships with all people, I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person in this room.
Well, what do you say to Americans who are concerned by that rhetoric?
I don't know.
and by
I mean,
the
I don't know
videos?
what to say. I got criminal justice reform done and prison reform and opportunity zones. I took care of black colleges and universities. I don't know what to say. They can say anything. I mean, they can say anything. It makes me sad because I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark.
I am the least
But I don't
racist
care who's in
person.
the audience.
Only
I'm
said
the
by
least
non-racist, right?
Racist person in this room.
Okay, Vice President Biden, let me
Abraham.
ask you very quickly, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire, every single one. Started off his campaign coming down the escalator saying he's going to get rid of those Mexican rapists. He's banned Muslims because they're Muslims. He has moved around
True.
and made everything worse across the board.
Yes,
says
Colton.
about the poor boys. Last time we were on stage,
Proud
here,
Boys,
he
not
said,
the
"I
Poor
told them to
Boys."
Stand down and stand ready. Come on. This guy has a dog whistle about as big as a foghorn.
President Trump, I'm going to give you 10
Yo,
seconds to
a
respond on
dog
that.
whistle.
No,
about his-
you made a reference to Abraham Lincoln. Where did that come in? I mean,
You said
where
you're
did that-
Abraham
No,
Lincoln.
where did that? No.
You said-
I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community.
And I'm
I didn't
saying-
say I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community. Now, you have done nothing other than the crime bill, which put
Oh, God.
tens of thousands of black men, mostly, in jail.
All right,
True.
let me,
You know
let me
what?
ask- let me
They
ask
remember
Vice
it
President
because if you
Biden.
look
Trump
at what's
is the
happening
same.
with the voting
Trump
right
is
now,
actually
Let me
worse
ask
on
Vice
this.
remember
President
that you
Biden
treated them
about-
very, very badly.
The-
Just
the-
take a look at what's happening out there.
Vice President Biden, let
God,
me
this
give
is
you
so
a chance to
depressing.
respond
Yeah, he
within
stole
this
it from Nixon.
context.
Yeah,
Crime
100%
bills that
right.
you supported
White
in the
identity,
80s and
law and
90s
order.
contributed to the incarceration of tens of thousands of young black men who had small amounts of drugs in their possession. They are sons, they are brothers, they're fathers, they're uncles, whose families are still to this day, some of them suffering the consequences. So speak to those families. Why should they vote for you?
One of the things is that in the 80s, we passed 100%, all 100 senators voted for it, a bill on drugs and how to deal with drugs. It was a mistake. I've been trying to change it since then, particularly the portion on cocaine. That's why I've been arguing that, in fact,
was
we
Nixon
should
asked
not
about that?
send anyone to jail for a pure drug offense. They should be going into treatment across the board. That's what we should be spending money on. That's why I set up drug courts, which were never funded by our Republican friends. They should not be going to jail for a drug or an alcohol problem. They should be going into treatment. That's what we've been trying to do. That's what I'm going to get done, because I think the American people have now seen that, in fact, it was a mistake to pass those laws relating to drug. But they were not in the crime bill.
But why didn't he get it done? See, it's all talk, no action with these politicians. Why didn't he get it done? That's what I'm going to do when I become president. You were vice president along with Obama as your president, your leader, for 8 years. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years to get it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done because you're all talk and no action.
Mister, we have so many healthcare plans. We have so many plans.
We got 38,000 prisoners left from the.
You got nothing done.
Medical marijuana, let's
38,000
go.
Prisoners were released from federal prison. There were over 1,000 people who were given clemency. In fact, we're
Bad.
the ones that put in the legislation saying we could look at pattern and practice of police departments and what they were doing, how they were conducting themselves. I could go on, but we began the process. We lost an election. That's why I'm running to win back that election and change his terrible policy.
I just asked one
climate
question.
change.
Why didn't you do it in the 8 years, a short time ago? Why didn't you do it? You just said, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. You put tens of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama. You know why, Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
All right, Vice President
Because
Biden, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
We had a Republican Congress.
Awkward pause.
That's the answer.
Awkward pause. That's your answer. Oh my God.
Sometimes
All right.
you got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next section,
Like I
which
did
is
with criminal
climate
justice
change.
reform. I had
Okay.
to talk Democrats into it.
Gentlemen,
You
we're
did what we-
we're
Trump
running
lets
out
like
of
5
time,
black
so
guys
we
out of
gotta get on
prison,
to
and he's
the
like,
climate
"Hey guys,
change.
look, I saved all the black
You
people."
both have very different visions on climate change.
Different
President Trump, you
visions.
say
No.
that environmental regulations have hurt jobs in the energy
Visions.
sector. Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity to create new jobs. For each of you, how would you both combat climate change and support job growth at the same time? Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So we have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different programs. I do love the environment, but what I want is the cleanest, crystal clear water, the cleanest air. We have the best, lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big standard that I notice Obama goes with all the time. Not Joe. I haven't heard Joe use the term because I'm not sure he knows what it represents or means, but I have heard Obama use it. And we have the best carbon emission numbers that we've had in 35 years.
No, that's not true.
Under this administration, we are working so well with industry, but here's what we can't do. Look at China, how filthy it is. Look at Russia. Look at India. It's filthy. The air is filthy. The Paris Accord, I took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars, and we were treated
That's
very
not even
unfairly.
true.
When they put us in there, they did us a great
The Paris
disservice.
Agreement's barely
They were gonna
anything.
take away
It's
our
literally
businesses.
just-
I will not sacrifice tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord.
The Paris
it was
Accord
so unfair. China doesn't
is
kick in until 2030.
just,
Russia goes back to a low standard, and we kicked in right away. It would have destroyed our businesses. So, you ready? We have done an incredible job environmentally. We have the
No,
cleanest
oh
air,
God,
the
no,
cleanest
he's the
water,
worst.
and the
I
best
hate. Oh
carbon
God,
emission
he
standards
just lies.
that we've seen
There's
in
no
many,
beating
many
it.
years.
He's too
Vice
too
President
We haven't
stupid.
destroyed our industries.
The Paris Accord is like saying
Vice
like,
President
okay, you
Biden,
have our
2 minutes
goodwill,
to you,
or
uninterrupted.
we promise we will do this. It's not
Climate
even like
change,
guaranteed
climate warming,
shit that you have to
global
do.
warming is an
It's just saying you will do it. That's all the Paris Accord
We have
is.
a moral obligation to deal with it. And we're told by all the leading scientists in the world we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years. 4 more years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate, to limit the limit of emissions, will put us in a position where we're going to be in real trouble. Here's where we have a great opportunity. I was able to get both all the environmental organizations as well as labor, the people worried about jobs, to support my climate plan. Because what it does, it will create millions of new good-paying jobs. We're going to invest in, for example, 50,000 charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future. In the meantime, China is doing that. We're going to be in a position where we're going to see to it that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy, saving hundreds of millions of barrels of oil in the process and creating significant number of jobs.
I'm surprised he knows this
And by the
much
way,
about the plan.
The whole idea of what this is all going to do, it's going to create millions of jobs, and it's going to clean the environment. Our health and our jobs are at stake. That's what's happening. And what right now, by the way, Wall Street firms indicated that my plan will in fact create 18.6 million jobs, 7 million more than his. This is from Wall Street. And I'll create $1 trillion more in economic growth than his proposal does. Not on climate, just on the economy.
President Trump, you're
They came out and said very strongly, $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan, that his plan is an economic disaster. If you look at what he wants to do, if you look at his plan, his
nothing to do with
environmental
climate.
plan, you know who developed it? AOC +3. They know nothing about the climate. She's
They
got a good
literally
line of
are
stuff,
more
but she knows
educated.
nothing
They
about
are
the
much more
climate.
educated
And
than
they're
Trump
all
will ever
hopping
be,
through
than
hoops.
1,000 Trumps.
AOC +3.
Oh my God,
Look,
I hate him.
their
Oh,
real plan costs
Orange man
$100
bad.
trillion.
Orange man
If
bad.
we had the best year in the history of our country for 100 years, we would not even come close to a number like that. When he says buildings, they want to take buildings down because they want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. As far as they're concerned, if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest.
They're gonna
plan
take your windows.
that anybody has
Run.
ever seen. And this wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody. Frankly, I don't even know how it can be good politically. They want to spend $100 trillion. That's their real number. He's trying to say it was 6. It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little, tiny, small windows. And many other things.
Okay.
And many other things.
Let me have the Vice President
It
respond,
is
and we're running out of
crazy.
time, and we have a lot
And
more
you'll
questions to
destroy
get
our
to.
country.
So let's hear from the Vice President. I have a number more questions.
I don't know where he comes from. I don't know where he comes up with these numbers.
Queens.
$100 trillion. Give me a break. This plan was endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group. Labor, because they know the future lies. The future lies in us being able to breathe, and they know there are good jobs in getting us there. And by the way, the fastest growing industry in America is solar energy and wind. He thinks wind causes cancer, windmills. It's the fastest growing jobs, and they pay good prevailing wages, 45, 50 bucks an hour. We can grow and we can be cleaner if we go the route I'm proposing.
President Trump,
Excuse me.
please
We are
respond, and then I have some
We are
follow-ups.
energy independent for the first time. We
That's a
don't
fallacy.
need all
That's
of
not
these
true.
countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their energy. We are energy independent. I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive, kills all the birds. It's very intermittent. It's got a lot of problems, and they happen to make the windmills in both Germany and China. And the fumes coming up, if you're a believer in carbon emission, the fumes coming up to make these massive windmills is more than anything that we're talking about with natural gas, which is very clean. One other thing.
Find me a scientist
Solar.
who said that.
I love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to really run our big, beautiful factories that we need to compete with the world. So
False.
It's all a pipe dream. But you know what we'll do? We're going to have the greatest economy in the world. But if you want to kill the economy, get rid of your oil industry. You want, and what about fracking?
All right,
Now-
let me
now we
let
have
me
to
have
ask
let
him
me
about
allow
fracking.
Vice President Biden to
I
respond.
never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did. Show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact of the matter is
Showed
he's
it last
flat lying.
Would you
Flat-
rule out banning fracking?
I do rule out banning fracking because the answer we need other industries to transition to get to ultimately a complete zero emissions by 2025. What I will do with fracking over time is make sure that we can capture the emissions from the fracking, capture the emissions from gas. We can do that, and we can do that by investing money in doing it. But it's a transition to that.
I have one more question in this pod, and then
Excuse me,
we have.
he was against fracking. He said it. I will show that to you tomorrow. I am against fracking. Until he got the nomination, went to Pennsylvania, then he said, but you know what, Pennsylvania? He'll be against it very soon because his party is totally against it.
Fracking on federal land, I said. No fracking
said
and or
fracking.
oil
You
on
didn't say
federal
fracking.
Let
land.
me ask this
I
final
did.
question in this section, and then I want to move on to our final section. President Trump, people of color are much more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making them sick. Your administration has rolled back regulations on these kinds of facilities. Why should these families give you another 4 years in office?
The families that we're talking about are employed heavily, and they're making a lot of money, more money than they've ever made. If you look at the kind of numbers that we produce for Hispanic, for Black, for Asian, it's 9 times greater, the percentage gain, than it was in 3 years, than it was under 8 years of the 2 of them, to put it nicely. 9 times more. Now, somebody lives, I have not heard the numbers or the statistics that you're saying, but they're making a tremendous amount of money economically. We saved it, and I saved it again a number of months ago when oil was crashing because of the pandemic. We saved it. We got, say what you want about relationship, we got Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Russia to cut back, way back. We saved our oil industry, and now it's very vibrant again.
All
And
right.
everybody has very inexpensive gasoline. Remember
Vice
that.
President Biden, your response, and then we're going to have a final question for both of you.
My response is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. They live near chemical plants that, in fact, pollute, chemical plants and oil plants and refineries that pollute. I used to live near that when I was growing up in Claymont, Delaware. And all the more oil refineries in Marcus Hook and the Delaware River than there is any place, including in Houston at the time. When my mom get in the car and when there was first frost to drive me to school, turn in the windshield wiper, there'd be oil slick in the window. That's why so many people in my state were dying and getting cancer. The fact is those frontline communities, it doesn't matter what you're paying them, it matters how you keep them safe. What do? And you impose restrictions on the pollutions, the pollutants coming out of those fence line communities.
Okay, I have one final
Would he
question.
close
It
down
falls-
the oil industry?
It falls.
Would you close
it
down the
falls-
oil
By the way, I
industry?
would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I will
that's
transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement
That's a big
because
statement.
I would stop
Why would you do that?
because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
Here's the deal, but
That's
you
a
can't
big
do
statement.
that. Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time, and I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the gas, excuse me, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do
All
give
right.
it to solar and wind.
We
And
have
that's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then
Ohio.
I have to get to the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context, but the point is, look, we have to move toward a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production, by 2050 totally.
All right. One
Is he gonna
final
get
question
China to
both
do
of you.
it?
No, we're finished with
Is
this.
he
We
going
have
to
to
get
move on
China
to
to
our
do it?
final question. We
No,
have to
I'm
move
going
on
to
to our
rejoin
final
Paris
question.
Accord and make China abide by what they agreed to.
All right,
That'll
this
cost you
is
$1
about
trillion.
leadership, gentlemen. And this first question does go to you, President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you, Mr.
We have to make our country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding it, and we're doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs in a short period of time, et cetera. But I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates, #1 in the class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success. But I'm cutting taxes, and he wants to raise everybody's taxes, and he wants to put new regulations on everything. He will kill it. If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
All right. Vice President Biden, same question to you. What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you?
I will say, I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear. We're going to choose to move forward because we have enormous opportunities to make things better. We can grow this economy. We can deal with the systemic racism. And at the same time, we can make sure that our economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean energy, creating millions of new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to say, as I said at the beginning, what is on the ballot here is the character of this country: decency, honor, respect, treating people with dignity, making sure that everyone has an even chance. And I'm going to make sure you get that. You haven't been getting it the last 4 years.
All right. I want to thank you both for a very robust hour and a half, a fantastic debate. Really appreciate it. President Trump, former Vice President
Robust.
Joe Biden. Thank you to Belmont University for hosting us.
All right, that was terrible. I'm going to Twitch. All right, you guys have a great night of depression after watching that total shit show. Yeah, have a good one.